Chapter 1. 6 years ago. The sensation of cool grass beneath my bare feet was pure bliss. Wind whipped through my hair as I ran, all limbs and boundless energy at not quite 12 years old, chasing the other pups through the clearing at the edge of Silver Lake territory. "Can't catch me, Amara," Tommy Jenkins shouted over his shoulder. His laughter carried back to me on the breeze. "Just watch me." I pushed myself faster, my lungs burning with exertion and joy. That was before everything changed. I was Omega-born. Both my parents came from Omega bloodlines, but on days like this, it didn't matter. When we were pups playing together, the hierarchy that would define our adult lives hadn't fully taken hold. We were just children, enjoying the freedom of a spring afternoon, our wolves close to the surface but still young enough that we didn't worry about shifting unexpectedly. My mother spread the red and white checkered blanket across the grass while my father unpacked sandwiches from the picnic basket. Around us, other pack families did the same. Spring picnics were a cherished tradition in the Silver Lake Pack, a time for the entire community to celebrate winter's end. "Amara," my mother called, waving me over. "Come eat before you wear yourself out completely." I jogged over, flopping down dramatically on the blanket. "I'm starving," I announced, reaching for a sandwich. My father chuckled, ruffling my hair. "Your wolf energy grows stronger every day. You'll be able to shift soon." "How much longer?" I asked, mouth already full of peanut butter and jelly. "Perhaps by your 16th birthday," Mom said, smoothing my wild hair back from my face. "Every wolf develops differently." I swallowed and grinned. "Mine's going to be the fastest in the pack. I can already feel her." It wasn't a lie. My wolf was always there, just beneath my skin, playful and eager. Sometimes at night I could almost see through her eyes, the world sharper, sense more vivid. Dr. Cross, our pack healer, said I had an unusually strong connection to my wolf for someone who hadn't experienced their first shift. "Don't rush nature," Dad cautioned, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners. "It has its own timeline." I rolled my eyes with the dramatic flair only preteens could master. "You always say that." "Because it's always true," Mom replied, passing me a juice box. The meadow buzzed with activity. Younger pups playing tag, teenagers showing off for each other, adults chatting in comfortable groups. Alpha Marcus and Luna Elena sat at the center of it all, their presence a comforting constant. Their son, Eros, lounged with the older boys at the clearing's edge. At 17, he was already impressive, tall and confident, unmistakably his father's son. I paid him little attention then. He inhabited the world of near adults, while I remained firmly rooted in childhood. Our paths rarely crossed except during pack gatherings like this one. "Can I go play with Zara?" I asked, spotting my best friend waving from near the tree line. Mom hesitated, her gaze drifting toward the forest. "Stay where we can see you. Don't venture into the trees." "We won't," I promised, already scrambling to my feet. Zara met me halfway across the field, her dark hair pulled into a neat braid so unlike my wild curls. As the beta's daughter, she maintained a constant, put-together appearance that I could never quite achieve. "Let's catch tadpoles in the stream," she suggested, pointing to the shallow creek running along the meadow's edge. "Race you there," I called, already taking off. We spent the next hour with our pants rolled to our knees, splashing in the frigid water, squealing whenever we managed to cup our hands around the slippery creatures before carefully releasing them back into the current. "My dad says I might shift before I turn 13, Zara announced proudly. "Beta bloodlines usually shift earlier." I flicked water at her. "Show off," she laughed, splashing me back. "Maybe you'll surprise everyone. Omegas aren't supposed to be as fast as you are either." I straightened with pride at the compliment. "My wolf feels strong." "I can tell. Mine." Zara froze suddenly, her head snapping up, nostrils flaring. I caught it too, the scent of unfamiliar wolves. Not our pack. The smell was wrong, sharper, tinged with aggression. A high-pitched whistle cut through the afternoon air. I turned to see Alpha Marcus on his feet, his posture rigid with alertness. Across the meadow, parents were calling for their children, faces creased with tension. "Amara!" My father's voice carried clearly, urgent in a way I'd never heard before. "We need to go back," Zara said, already splashing toward the bank. But before we could reach dry land, they were there, 5 men in dark clothing emerging from the trees directly behind us. I didn't recognize them, but their scents hit me like a physical blow. Blood Moon Pack wolves. Our neighbors to the north. Our enemies. One of them, tall with a jagged scar across his neck, grabbed Zara by the arm. She screamed, the sound piercing the peaceful afternoon like a blade. I didn't think. I reacted, launching myself at the man, my small fists pummeling his side. "Let her go!" He backhanded me with casual brutality. I fell into the stream, water rushing up my nose and into my mouth. Through the roaring in my ears, I heard shouts and growls erupting across the meadow. When I managed to push myself up, coughing and sputtering, Zara was already being dragged away. Another man, younger, with eyes like chips of ice, reached down and yanked me up by my hair. "This one'll do too," he said, his voice eerily calm despite the chaos unfolding around us. I screamed for my parents, twisting and kicking as the man hoisted me under his arm like a sack of grain. Through my terror, I caught glimpses of the meadow, adults shifting into wolf form, charging toward us. Alpha Marcus's massive black wolf led the charge, teeth bared in fury, but we were already at the tree line, and my captor ran with supernatural speed. "Get the girl out of here," someone shouted. "We need leverage." Zara broke free, but I was passed to another man who took off deeper into the forest. I caught one last glimpse of the meadow, my parents' horrified faces, Zara sobbing on the ground, Alpha Marcus's wolf form launching into the trees after us, before the forest swallowed us whole. I fought like a wild thing, clawing and biting. My wolf, though still immature and unable to emerge fully, lent me her strength and fury. I managed to sink my teeth into my captor's arm hard enough to draw blood. He cursed, nearly dropping me. "The little bitch bit me." "Keep moving," another voice commanded. "They're right behind us." We reached a clearing where several dirt bikes were hidden. My captor threw me over the back of one, pinning me down with one massive arm while he started the engine with the other. The bike's roar drowned out my screams as we sped away from Silver Lake territory, the wind whipping tears from my eyes. My wolf howled in despair inside me, sensing we were being taken farther from home, from safety, from pack. Hours blurred together. When the bikes finally stopped, I was dragged into a building that reeked of too many unfamiliar wolves. My head spun as I was pushed down a hallway and thrown into a small windowless room containing nothing but a thin mattress on the floor. "Alpha will deal with you tomorrow," one of the men said before slamming the door. I heard a lock click into place, then silence, except for my own ragged breathing. I curled into a ball on the mattress, my body shaking with cold and terror. "Please find me," I whispered to the darkness, hoping somehow my parents, my Alpha, my pack would hear. "Please." My wolf whimpered inside me, pressing against my consciousness as if trying to offer comfort. I reached for her, that warm presence who had always been my secret friend, and held on tight. Exhaustion eventually pulled me under. Morning brought no comfort. The room remained dark, but a thin line of light beneath the door told me day had arrived. My mouth was dry, my stomach cramping with hunger. The mattress beneath me smelled of mildew and fear, the fear of others who had been imprisoned here before me. When the door finally opened, I had to shield my eyes against the sudden light. "Get up!" A woman stood in the doorway, her face expressionless, her posture rigid. She wasn't one of the men who had taken me. When I didn't move fast enough, she stepped forward and yanked me to my feet by my arm. "Alpha wants to see you. Don't speak unless spoken to if you want to live." She marched me down a hallway into what appeared to be a normal living room, except for the large wooden chair positioned like a throne at one end. A man sat there, broad-shouldered, with silver threading through his dark beard. His eyes were the color of tarnished pennies, and they fixed on me with calculated interest. "So this is the Silver Lake pup my warriors brought back," he said, his voice deceptively soft. "What's your name, girl?" I pressed my lips together, defiance momentarily overriding fear. My parents had taught me never to give information to enemies. The woman beside me dug her fingers into my shoulder. "Answer Alpha Donovan when he speaks to you." "Amara," I said, the word barely audible. "Louder," Alpha Donovan commanded. "Amara Vale," I repeated, lifting my chin slightly. "Vale." He tapped his fingers against the armrest. "Not a dominant bloodline. You're Omega-born, aren't you? I can smell it on you." I said nothing, but he didn't seem to expect an answer. "Interesting choice by my warriors. I sent them for leverage, and they bring me an Omega child." He leaned forward. Tell me, girl, is Alpha Marcus in the habit of risking lives for Omegas? He protects all of his pack, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. His mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. We'll see. My scouts report they're already at our borders, demanding your return. Quite the response for one insignificant pup. A door opened behind him, and a teenage boy entered, maybe 16 or 17, with the same copper eyes but none of the control. His gaze landed on me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Is this her, father? The Silver Lake hostage? Yes, Damon. This is our guest. Damon circled me slowly, like a predator assessing prey. My wolf bristled beneath my skin, sensing danger more clearly than my human mind could articulate. She doesn't look special, he said, stopping directly in front of me. Just a regular pup. Appearances can be deceiving, Alpha Donovan replied. Take her back to her room, make sure she's fed. We may need to keep her alive for negotiations. Damon's hand shot out, gripping my jaw hard enough to bruise, forcing me to look up at him. Maybe she should carry a message back to them, something they won't forget. A chill ran through me at the gleam in his eyes. Not yet, his father said. We wait to see what they offer for her return. Damon released me with a small shove. As you wish, father. I was escorted back to the room by the same stone-faced woman. This time she brought a tray with bread, cheese, and water. Eat, she commanded. You'll need your strength. Before I could ask any questions, she was gone, the lock clicking into place behind her. I ate mechanically, not tasting the food, my mind racing with terrified thoughts. Would my pack find me? What did these people want? What would happen if Alpha Marcus didn't give them whatever they demanded? My wolf paced anxiously within me, confused and frightened by our separation from pack and family. I tried to soothe her, but how could I when I was equally scared? Night fell, marked only by the light beneath the door disappearing. I curled up on the mattress again, trying to make myself as small as possible. In the darkness, I whispered the names of everyone I loved like a prayer. Mom, Dad, Zara, Alpha Marcus, Luna, Elena, hoping somehow the sound would reach them, guide them to me. Sleep came in fitful bursts, broken by nightmares of running through endless forests, never finding my way home. The second day passed much like the first. I was brought food twice, but otherwise left alone with my thoughts and fears. By the third day, hope was beginning to fade, replaced by a dull, constant dread. When the door opened that evening, it wasn't the woman but Damon who stood there, a strange smile playing on his lips. Come with me, he said, his tone making it clear refusal wasn't an option. My legs trembled as I followed him down the hallway to a different room, larger, with a desk and chairs that suggested it was some kind of office. Alpha Donovan sat behind the desk, his expression grim. It seems your Alpha values you more than I anticipated, he said without preamble. He's agreed to our territorial demands in exchange for your safe return. Relief flooded through me so intensely I nearly collapsed. I was going home. However, Alpha Donovan continued, business transactions require documentation, insurance that agreements will be honored. Damon moved to stand beside his father, that unsettling smile still in place. We're sending a message back with you. Something in his tone made my wolf cower inside me. I took an instinctive step back. Hold her, Alpha Donovan ordered, and before I could react, two men I hadn't noticed stepped from the shadows and grabbed my arms, pinning them behind my back. I struggled uselessly, panic rising in my throat. What are you doing? Let me go. Damon approached slowly, drawing something from his pocket that caught the light. A blade. Not just any blade. Even at my young age, I recognized the distinctive gleam of silver. Werewolves heal too quickly, he said conversationally, as if discussing the weather. But silver leaves a mark, a reminder. Damon, his father cautioned, nothing fatal. Just ensure the message is clear. Of course, father. Damon's eyes never left my face as he raised the knife. Hold her still. The men tightened their grip as I thrashed wildly, my screams tearing from my throat. My wolf surged forward in desperation, nearly breaking through despite my young age, claws partially extended from my fingertips, my vision sharpening with the beginning of a shift. But I wasn't strong enough yet. Neither was she. The silver blade touched my skin just below my right temple, and the world exploded into agony. The metal burned like acid. Worse than anything I'd ever felt or imagined. Damon drew the knife downward, in a deliberate line across my cheek toward my jaw. "This is what happens when Silver Lake wolves forget their place," he whispered, his face inches from mine. "Every time your alpha sees this scar, he'll remember our agreement." My vision blurred with tears and pain. The silver did more than cut. It poisoned, burning through tissue, ensuring the wound would never fully heal, even with werewolf regeneration. My wolf howled in agony inside me, the silver's touch like fire against her essence. I felt her recoil, retreating deep inside to escape the burning pain. Blood poured down my face, metallic and warm against my lips. I wasn't screaming anymore. The pain had stolen my voice, leaving only a hollow whimper. "That's enough," Alpha Donovan said, rising from his desk. "The exchange happens at dawn. Clean her up enough that she doesn't bleed out before then." The men released me, and I crumpled to the floor, one hand pressed against my ravaged cheek. Through the haze of pain, I heard Damon's voice, sickeningly pleased with himself. "Now you're marked, forever. No one will ever look at you the same way again." I was dragged back to the room where the woman returned with water and cloths. She cleaned the wound in silence, her movements efficient but not gentle. The water stung against the silver-infected cut, drawing fresh tears. "Don't touch it," she instructed as she finished. "Silver poisoning will worsen if you keep touching it." I couldn't have replied if I'd wanted to. The pain consumed everything, radiating outward from my face in fiery pulses. But worse than the physical agony was the sensation of my wolf retreating further and further away from me, as if the silver had created a barrier between us. "Please," I finally managed to whisper, "I want to go home." For the first time, something like pity flickered across the woman's face. "You will. Tomorrow." She paused at the door. "But some parts of you might never make it back." Left alone again, I curled into a ball on the mattress, one hand hovering near but not touching my wounded face. The cut throbbed in time with my heartbeat, each pulse a reminder of Damon's words. Marked. Forever. I reached desperately for my wolf, trying to find that warm presence who had always been my comfort. She was there but distant now, whimpering in her own pain, hiding from the silver's burning touch. "Don't leave me," I begged her silently. "Please don't leave me alone." But the connection between us felt frayed, damaged by silver and trauma. For the first time in my life, I felt truly alone, even within myself. Dawn couldn't come fast enough. I must have passed out from pain and exhaustion because the next thing I knew, I was being shaken awake. The woman stood over me, a coat in her hands. "Put this on," she said. "It's time." My face felt tight and hot, the wound pulsing with each heartbeat. Moving sent fresh waves of pain radiating through my head, but I forced myself to stand, to put on the coat that was several sizes too large. Alpha Donovan himself escorted me outside, his hand clamped around my upper arm. The morning air was cold against my feverish skin. "Remember the lesson," he said as we approached a clearing where several cars and wolves in human form waited. "Silver Lake stays on its side of the river from now on." I didn't answer. Couldn't. Every ounce of my strength was focused on remaining upright, on putting one foot in front of the other. Across the clearing, I saw them, my pack. Alpha Marcus in human form stood at the front, his face a mask of controlled fury. Behind him, several warriors in partial shift waited, claws extended, eyes glowing with rage. And there, my parents, their faces twisted with anguish as they caught sight of me. "Send her over," Alpha Marcus called, his voice carrying the unmistakable power of an alpha command. Alpha Donovan's grip tightened briefly before he pushed me forward. "The agreement is sealed. This territory is now Blood Moon land." I stumbled across the clearing on unsteady legs. Each step seemed to take an eternity, the distance between me and safety stretching impossibly long. Halfway across, my knees buckled. I would have fallen if Alpha Marcus hadn't moved with supernatural speed to catch me, lifting me into his arms as if I weighed nothing. "I have you, little one," he murmured, his voice gentle despite the rage I could feel vibrating through him. "You're safe now." Over his shoulder, I saw my mother's face crumple as she caught sight of my wound. My father made a sound I'd never heard before, half human, half wolf, pure anguish. "What have they done to you?" Alpha Marcus whispered, carrying me back toward our pack lines. I couldn't answer. The relief of being safe, of being back with my pack, overwhelmed the pain for a moment. I pressed my face against Alpha Marcus's chest and finally let myself sob, the sound raw and broken. As we crossed back into Silver Lake territory, I heard Alpha Marcus giving orders, voices calling for Dr. Cross, for cars to be brought around, for the fastest route back to Pack Lands. I was placed gently in the back seat of a car, my mother sliding in beside me, gathering me carefully into her arms. My father took the wheel, his knuckles white with tension. "My brave girl," Mom whispered, tears streaming down her face as she stroked my hair, careful to avoid the wounded side. "My brave, brave girl." The drive back to Pack territory passed in a blur of pain and exhaustion. I drifted in and out of consciousness, vaguely aware of my mother's soothing words, my father's worried glances in the rearview mirror. By the time we reached the Pack's medical facility, I was burning with fever, the silver poisoning working its way deeper into my system. Dr. Cross was waiting, her human features tight with concern. As a human mated to a werewolf, she combined traditional medicine with knowledge of our unique physiology. "Bring her straight to the treatment room," she directed, leading the way through the clinic doors. I was laid on a cool examination table, bright lights suddenly painful against my sensitive eyes. Dr. Cross leaned over me, her expression gentle but focused. "Amara, I need to clean and treat the wound. The silver is causing an infection that your wolf can't heal on her own." She touched my uninjured cheek softly. "It's going to hurt, but I need you to be brave a little longer. Can you do that for me?" I managed a tiny nod, reaching blindly for my mother's hand. "I'll be right here," Mom promised, gripping my fingers tightly. "We both will." My father stood at the foot of the table, his face ashen but determined. "You're the strongest person I know, Amara, stronger than any of us." Dr. Cross worked methodically, cleaning the wound with solutions that made me cry out, despite my best efforts to be brave. The silver had left a deep gash from my temple to my jawline, the edges already showing signs of permanent scarring. "The good news is that it missed your eye," Dr. Cross said as she applied some kind of poultice that slightly numbed the burning. "And it's a clean cut, straight, not jagged. That will help with healing." "But it will scar," my father said. It wasn't a question. Dr. Cross's silence was answer enough. Will it always hurt like this?" I managed to ask, my voice barely audible. She paused in her work, ensuring I could see her eyes. "No, sweetheart. The acute pain will fade. The silver poisoning will work its way out of your system with treatment. It will be uncomfortable for a while, but not like this." What she didn't say, what I could see in her careful expression, was that some kinds of pain would linger long after the physical wound healed. When she had finished cleaning and bandaging my face, Dr. Cross gave me something for the pain and fever. As the medication began to take effect, the sharp edges of agony dulled to a more manageable throb. "She needs rest now," I heard her telling my parents. "The next few days will be difficult as her body fights the silver poisoning, and we'll need to watch for—" Her voice faded as exhaustion pulled me under once more. Before sleep claimed me completely, I sensed a presence in the doorway of the treatment room. Through half-closed eyes, I saw him, Eros, the Alpha's son, watching me with an intensity I couldn't understand through the haze of medication and pain. Our eyes met briefly across the room. Even in my confused state, I was struck by the emotion in his gaze, not pity as I would come to recognize in so many others, but something deeper, something that looked almost like determination. Then my mother shifted, blocking my view, and consciousness slipped away completely. In my dreams, I ran through endless forests, my wolf beside me rather than within me, both of us whole and unharmed. But no matter how far we ran, I could feel it, the phantom weight of Damon's words, the ghost of silver against my skin, marked, forever. And somewhere deep inside, in the place where my wolf had always been my constant companion, I felt the first tremors of the distance that would grow between us, a fissure caused by silver and fear, widening into a chasm that would take years and a love I couldn't yet imagine to bridge. Chapter 2. 6 months later. The scar had healed, if you could call it that. Dr. Cross said I was lucky. The silver blade had cut clean, leaving a straight line rather than a jagged one. But lucky wasn't how I described the angry red mark running from my right temple down across my cheek to the edge of my jaw. Every morning, I'd forget for a blissful moment. Then I'd catch my reflection and reality would crash back. That particular morning, I stared at myself longer than usual. I'd stopped touching the scar weeks ago. The physical pain had faded, just as Dr. Cross promised, but something else lingered. A strange emptiness where my wolf used to be. She was still there, technically. I could feel her presence, but muted, distant. Where once we'd been in constant communication, now there was mostly silence. "Amara, you up, sweetheart?" Mom's voice came through the door, followed by a gentle knock. "Yeah, just getting dressed." She peeked in, brush in hand. "Want me to do your hair?" Our new morning ritual. Before the abduction, I'd insisted I was too old for help. Now I craved the gentle strokes, the momentary feeling of being cared for. I nodded, sitting on the bed's edge. Mom settled behind me, gathering my dark curls. Maybe a side braid today? It would look pretty with that blue shirt. I knew what she really meant. A side braid would partially hide the scar. Mom was always finding little ways to help me conceal it. Sounds nice. Dr. Cross called this morning. Mom's voice stayed deliberately casual. She wants to know how you feel about going back to school next week. My stomach clenched. I'd been homeschooled since the incident, claiming I needed recovery time. Truth was, I'd been avoiding the inevitable, facing the entire pack, especially kids my age. I don't know if I'm ready. Mom's hands paused briefly. It's been 6 months, sweetheart. Dr. Cross thinks routine might help. Your wolf, too. My wolf, the mention sent a pang through my chest. Dr. Cross had explained that trauma affected both of us, causing my wolf to retreat. The longer she stayed withdrawn, the harder it would be for her to emerge when I needed to shift. What if they stare? Mom turned me to face her. Some might at first. But you're still Amara, still our brave, beautiful girl. The pack knows what you survived. But I didn't feel brave or beautiful. I felt marked, damaged. I'll think about it. 3 days later, I stood at the edge of the pack's central green, stomach tied in knots. After gentle persuasion from my parents and Dr. Cross, I'd agreed to join the weekly youth pack run, a supervised activity for pre-shift adolescents. I arrived early, hoping to avoid an awkward entrance. My hair was arranged in the familiar side braid, though nothing could completely hide the scar. Luna Elena spotted me immediately. Unlike others who either stared too obviously or avoided looking entirely, she met my eyes directly. "Amara," she said warmly, "I'm so pleased you decided to join us." I managed a small smile. There was something about Luna Elena that made it impossible not to respond to her kindness. "Thank you for having me. You've been missed." She briefly touched my shoulder. "These sessions help strengthen the connection with your wolf. Dr. Cross mentioned you've been having difficulties?" I nodded, embarrassed. "She's quiet." Ever since, I didn't need to finish. Everyone knew. Silver can create barriers between us and our wolves, but those barriers can be overcome with time and patience. Before I could respond, other kids began arriving. I watched their faces carefully, the quick widening of eyes, hurried glances away, whispered comments behind hands. This had been a mistake. "Amara? Is that you?" Lucas Howard approached, his expression mixing surprise with something else I couldn't identify. "Hi, Lucas." He stood awkwardly, eyes darting to my scar and away. I didn't know you were coming today. Last-minute decision." "Cool." He shifted his weight. "Well, I should go. Emma's saving me a spot, but good to see you." He backed away quickly, clearly relieved to escape. I watched him join Emma and several others, immediately bending to whisper something that had them all glancing my way. My cheeks burned. This was exactly what I'd feared. "Don't let it bother you." I startled at the voice. Maya Winters, Emma's older sister and one of the popular girls, stood closer than expected. "They're just surprised. You've been hiding for months." Her tone made it clear what she thought of my absence. "I wasn't hiding. I was recovering." Maya raised an eyebrow. 6 months to recover from a cut? Werewolves heal faster. It was Silver. The words came out through gritted teeth. Something flickered in her eyes, maybe recognition of the severity. It disappeared quickly. "Well, you're here now. Just don't expect everyone to act like nothing's changed." Luna Elena called for attention before I could respond, and Maya sauntered away. The session began with breathing exercises designed to strengthen awareness of our wolves. We sat in a circle on the grass, eyes closed. "Feel your wolf," Luna Elena instructed. "She is always there, even when quiet. Acknowledge her presence, invite her forward." I closed my eyes, trying to follow the familiar meditation. Before the abduction, these exercises had been easy, my wolf always eager, pressing close to consciousness. Now, I reached into what felt like an empty cavern. "Where are you?" I called silently. Please answer me." For a moment, nothing. Then faintly I felt her, a whisper of presence, like detecting a heartbeat through thick fabric. She was there, but so far away. When you feel your wolf, imagine running together through the forest. Feel the freedom, the joy of connection. I tried to visualize it, but the image dissolved, replaced by memories of being dragged through different woods, silver against skin, my wolf's whimper as she retreated. My eyes snapped open, breath coming too fast. Around me, others remained peaceful in meditation. Only Luna Elena noticed my distress. "I can't do this. I'm not ready." Before the session could progress to partial shifting exercises that would reveal how damaged my connection truly was, I stood abruptly. "I'm sorry, I don't feel well." I turned and fled, ignoring Luna Elena's gentle call. I didn't stop until I reached the small pond at Pack Territory's far edge, a quiet spot where I'd often read before everything changed. Collapsing onto the wooden dock, I let tears fall freely. "I'm sorry," I whispered, unsure if I was apologizing to my wolf, Luna Elena, or myself. "I'm trying. Trying is all any of us can do." The voice startled me so badly I nearly fell off the dock. Whirling around, I found Eros standing a few yards away. I didn't hear you approach." "Wolf feet," he gestured to his boots, then more gently, "May I join you?" Too surprised to refuse, I nodded. He settled beside me, leaving respectful distance. We sat in silence, watching fish break the pond's surface. I was acutely aware of him, his size, strength, the faint scent of pine, and something uniquely his. "My mother mentioned you were joining the youth session today," he finally said. It was brave to try. I searched for pity or condescension, found none, just a steady gaze. I failed, couldn't even get through meditation without panicking. "You showed up. After everything you've been through, that takes courage." I faced him fully, unable to keep bitterness from my voice. "Everyone keeps saying how brave I am, but brave people don't hide for months. They don't run from simple pack exercises." He nodded thoughtfully. "True bravery isn't never being afraid. It's acknowledging fear and moving forward anyway, even if the steps are small." "Official alpha wisdom?" I asked, sarcasm slipping through. The corner of his mouth lifted. "That's from my mother. She's much wiser than I am." The unexpected response startled a laugh from me, the first genuine one in longer than I could remember. It felt strange, almost painful. Eros's eyes widened at the sound, something shifting in his expression. "Your wolf is still with you, Amara," he said gently but certainly. "Silver can create distance, but it can't sever the bond completely. She's waiting for you to find her again." "How would you know?" "Because I can sense her. My wolf can feel yours, even if you can't right now." I stared at him, caught between disbelief and desperate hope. "Really?" He nodded seriously. "She's wounded, hiding, but very much alive, and stronger than you think." A lump formed in my throat. Coming from anyone else, I might have dismissed it as empty comfort. But the certainty in his voice made me want to believe. "I should go. My parents will be wondering where I am." Eros stood fluidly, offering his hand. After brief hesitation, I took it, noticing how my smaller hand disappeared in his grip. "Thank you for checking on me. Anytime." Something in his tone suggested he meant it literally. As I turned to leave, he called softly, "Amara?" Small steps. I looked back, meeting his eyes. Small steps. Walking home, I almost didn't notice the group from training until I was nearly upon them. They fell silent as I approached. I kept my head high, determined not to run again. "Look who decided to show up just to run away." Maya's voice carried clearly. "Some wolves just don't belong in a pack." The words hit like a physical blow, but I kept walking. It wasn't until I was safely inside my house that I allowed myself to feel the full impact. Some wolves just don't belong in a pack. The worst part was, a growing voice inside feared she might be right. The social isolation began in earnest after that day. Parents would call their pups away when I approached the playground. Conversations halted when I entered the pack store. Seats next to me remained empty during gatherings. At first, I told myself I was imagining it. But as weeks passed, the pattern became impossible to ignore. "They're just being cautious," Mom insisted when I finally broke down and told her. "Silver frightens many wolves. They don't understand it. They're not afraid of the silver. They're afraid of me, of what happened to me." Mom's expression crumpled. "Oh, sweetheart. It's like they think it's contagious. Like if they get too close, their pups might get taken too, or end up scarred, or broken. You are not broken. Dad said fiercely from the doorway. You survived something terrible, but it did not break you. But it had. I could feel the fracture line running through me, separating who I'd been from who I was now. My wolf's continued silence proved that. Zara's 13th birthday invitation arrived via my mother, who received it from Zara's mother during a pack council meeting. You don't have to go if you're not comfortable, but it might be a good opportunity to reconnect. Friends. The word felt hollow now. The night of the party, I stood before my closet debating what to wear. I settled on a green sweater. Zara would remember it was my favorite color, and jeans, my hair in its usual style. You look beautiful, Dad said when I came downstairs. It's just a birthday party. But we both knew it was much more. The community hall was decorated with balloons and streamers. Music played from corner speakers, and tables laden with food lined one wall. I paused in the doorway, overwhelmed by noise and crowd. It was the first large gathering since the abduction. Amara, you came! Zara's mother approached, smile wide, but eyes uncertain as they flickered to my scar. Zara will be so pleased. I doubted that, but nodded politely. Zara stood with a group of girls near the punch bowl, laughing at something Maya had said. She wore a new dress, her hair styled in elaborate curls. She looked older somehow. She spotted me before I reached them, laughter fading. Her expression shifted through surprise, discomfort, maybe a flicker of genuine happiness before uncertainty smothered it. Amara, you came. Happy birthday. I held out my gift. I wouldn't miss it, but a kind one. Thanks. You can put it with the others. We're opening them later. Awkward silence fell between us. Once we could talk for hours. Now we were strangers wearing familiar faces. How have you been? She finally asked, the polite question for an acquaintance, not a best friend. Better. You? Good. Really good. I've been training with Dad. He thinks I might shift before summer. The pride in her voice was evident, as was the implication. While I'd been hiding, she'd been progressing. That's great. I meant it despite the pang of envy. Another heavy silence. I should probably get back. She gestured toward the group watching our interaction with curiosity. Birthday girl duties. Of course, I just wanted to say hi and give you your present. Thanks for coming. Help yourself to cake. She rejoined her friends, immediately drawn back into their laughter. I stood alone in the middle of the room watching. For a moment I considered leaving, slipping out before anyone noticed. But that would be giving up again. Small steps. I made my way to the food table, filled a plate with items I had no appetite for, and found an empty table at the back. From here, I could observe without being obvious. When Zara opened presents, I watched from my isolated position as she exclaimed over each gift. When she opened mine, her smile faltered briefly before she held up the bracelet. It's beautiful. Thank you, Amara. For one moment, our eyes met across the room, and I glimpsed something like regret. Then Maya whispered something in her ear, and she turned away. I left shortly after, walking home alone under stars I used to know the names for. At home, I went straight to my room. Sitting on my bed, I reached for my wolf. Are you there? Please talk to me. I need you. The response was faint but unmistakable, a whisper of presence, like the brush of fur against consciousness. Not words, not yet, but acknowledgement. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The months that followed settled into careful avoidance, others avoiding me avoiding them. It was easier, less painful than facing constant reminders of how things had changed. I stopped trying to join pack activities, declined invitations, created a small world consisting mainly of home, occasional walks in less populated areas, and weekly sessions with Dr. Cross. My 13th birthday came and went without traditional celebration. By then, it was clear my wolf was too suppressed for a shift to be possible. Your wolf is protecting herself, Dr. Cross explained. The silver wound created a barrier she's afraid to cross. Will she ever come back? Dr. Cross's expression was carefully neutral. That depends largely on you, Amara. If you continue to isolate yourself, to live in fear, she'll stay hidden. So it's my fault. No, it's not about fault. It's about healing, both yours and hers. Recovery isn't a straight line. But it felt like I was falling further behind each day. News reached us that Zara had experienced her first shift, the first in our age group. The pack celebrated with a traditional bonfire I learned about only after it happened. By my 14th birthday, I'd perfected invisibility, moving through pack spaces like a ghost, present but not participating. Alpha Marcus asked about you again, Dad mentioned one evening. He's concerned about your continued absence. I pushed food around my plate. I was at the last moon ceremony. Standing at the back, leaving before it ended, Mom pointed out gently. That's not really participating. What does he want from me? What does everyone want? For me to pretend everything's normal? To act like I'm not the pack freak with the silver scar who can't shift? No one thinks that, Dad said, though his tone lacked conviction. You don't hear what they say. You don't see how they look at me. Then tell us, Mom urged. Help us understand. I pulled away, exhausted by the conversation. I can't. I'm going to bed. In my room, I gathered the photographs I'd once displayed proudly, snapshots of a life that no longer existed, and placed them in a drawer, out of sight. Then I turned to the mirror on my closet door. My reflection stared back, the scar vivid even in dim light. I touched it for the first time in months, tracing its path. Marked. Forever. Damon's words echoed as clear as the day he'd spoken them. In that moment, I made a decision that would shape the years to come. I turned away from my reflection and never looked back. My wolf retreated further, responding to my surrender with her own. The distance grew, until her presence was just a memory. By 15, I was a shadow moving through the pack, present but not participating, alive but not living. The scar had faded to a silvery line, but the invisible wounds only deepened. In quiet nights when sleep eluded me, I sometimes thought I heard her, my wolf, whimpering softly from that distant place, a mournful sound echoing my own unspoken grief. But when morning came, even that faint connection faded, leaving only silence where once there had been joyful communion. My wolf and I, separated by silver and fear, both hiding from a world that had become too painful to face.
Chapter 3, Present Day. I ducked under the swing of a battle staff, barely avoiding a blow that would have left me with a splitting headache. Training with the warriors was usually my favorite part of the day, but today my focus was scattered, my reflexes slower than usual. "You're distracted," Jace Rivers observed, smirking. "Not like you, Eros." I rolled my shoulders, centering myself. Again. This time I was ready, blocking his strike and countering with a sweep that should have taken his legs out. He jumped, avoiding it with frustrating ease. Seriously, what's got the future alpha's head in the clouds? Or should I say, who? I ignored the bait, focusing on his movements. When his next attack came, I was prepared, landing a solid hit to his ribs. "Pay less attention to my thoughts and more to your guard," I advised as he winced. Around us, other pairs continued their training, but the familiar sounds were just background noise to the thoughts circling in my mind since dawn. Thoughts of her, Amara Vale, the Omega girl with the silver scar and haunted eyes, the girl who moved through our pack like a ghost, the girl whose scent pulled at something primal and protective inside me, the girl whose attacker I'd hunted down 3 years ago, leaving Damon Steele with the same silver scar across his face that he'd given her. The treaty with Alpha Donovan's pack had prevented me from taking his life as my wolf demanded, but I'd made sure he carried a permanent reminder of what happened to those who harmed my pack. "Enough," I said, stepping back from Jace. "I need water." From the edge of the training area, I caught a flash of dark hair disappearing around the community center. Even at this distance, I knew it was her. My wolf stirred, suddenly alert. "She came to return some books," my father's voice said from beside me. I turned to find Alpha Marcus watching me with knowing eyes. At 45, he was still in his prime, tall and powerfully built, with the same dark hair and green eyes I'd inherited, though silver now threaded his temples. "Who?" I asked, though we both knew it was pointless. "Amara Vale. She's been avoiding pack activities again." I took another drink to buy time. "Has Dr. Cross said anything about her progress?" "Patient confidentiality. Though she mentioned Amara's wolf suppression is becoming concerning. 6 years is a long time for dormancy. Wolf suppression was rare and dangerous, a condition where a werewolf prevented their wolf from emerging. In extreme cases, it could be fatal." "The silver wound," I said. Father nodded solemnly. "Silver wounds the wolf spirit directly. Some never fully recover." "She will," I said with unexpected certainty. My father studied me carefully. "You've been watching her." "I'm concerned for a pack member," I said, the formal response sounding hollow. "Just concern?" he asked mildly. Instead of answering, Father gestured toward younger wolves training. "What do you see there?" I observed them carefully. "Jackson has good instincts but poor discipline. Mia overthinks. The twins are too dependent on each other." Father nodded approvingly. "You see their potential. This makes a good alpha, understanding what each pack member needs to thrive." He paused meaningfully. "Now tell me what you see when you look at Amara Vale." The question caught me off guard. I considered carefully. "I see someone who survived something terrible," I finally said. "Someone carrying visible and invisible wounds. Someone whose wolf has retreated so far she can barely feel it." I paused. "Someone alone in a way no pack member should be." "And why does this concern you so deeply, Eros?" My wolf stirred, pushing forward with intensity. "She's pack," I said simply. Father placed a hand on my shoulder. "There's no shame in acknowledging a deeper connection, son. Our wolves often recognize what our human sides are slower to accept." The unspoken understanding passed between us. He knew what I'd done to Damon, one who gave Amara her scar, and he understood why. The formal reprimand he'd given me had been for show, but the pride in his eyes that day had been real. Before I could respond, Kai called for Father's attention. With a meaningful look, Alpha Marcus left me to my increasingly turbulent thoughts. Later, coffee forgotten, Kai Morrison appeared at my door with concerning news. "Thomas Vale came to see your father. He's worried about Amara. She stopped eating regularly, barely sleeps, locked herself in her room when they suggested seeing Dr. Cross again." My full attention snapped to his words. "Wolf sickness?" Kai's expression confirmed my fear. "Final stages of severe suppression can be fatal." "Council meeting at noon," he continued. "Alpha wants your input." After he left, I stood bracing against my counter, fighting complex emotions. The thought of losing Amara to wolf sickness created a fierce, possessive concern that went far beyond normal pack feelings. "Ours to protect," my wolf insisted, showing me an image of Amara as I'd last seen her. Too thin, too pale, hurrying away as if afraid someone might speak to her. The Vale home sat on the settlement's eastern edge, modest and slightly apart from neighbors. I hesitated at the property line, aware how unusual it was for the Alpha's son to make unannounced visits. Sarah Vale stepped onto the porch before I could reconsider. Amara's mother had aged noticeably since her daughter's abduction, dark hair streaked with gray, worry lines permanently etched around her eyes. "Eros," she said, surprised. "I thought I scented someone." "Mrs. Vale, I apologize for the unexpected visit. Please call me Sarah." She glanced back, then stepped fully outside, closing the door. "I assume you're here about Thomas's meeting with the Alpha." "Yes, I'm concerned about Amara." Sarah's expression softened, pain flashing behind practiced composure. "We all are." "How long has she shown signs of wolf sickness?" She sank onto the porch swing, and after hesitation I joined her, leaving space between us. "It's been building for years. At first, normal trauma response, withdrawal, nightmares, flinching from contact. Dr. Cross said her wolf retreating was protective, that with time she'd reconnect." Sarah's hands twisted in her lap. "But instead of improving, it's gotten worse. She barely eats, hardly sleeps. When she does sleep, she cries out, sounds like her wolf is in pain." My chest tightened. "And she won't see Dr. Cross?" "She went through the motions for years, but I don't think she ever believed she could heal." Sarah looked directly at me, tears threatening. "How do you convince someone they deserve to get better when the world keeps telling them they're broken?" "You can't," I said finally. "They have to believe it themselves." "Is she home now?" I asked, my voice rougher than intended. Sarah hesitated, protective instinct warring with desperate hope. "Yes, in her room since yesterday evening." "Would it be possible for me to speak with her?" The question surprised her. "You want to talk to Amara? Why?" Sometimes a different voice can reach someone when familiar ones can't. Sarah studied me, then stood. "Wait here." Thomas Vale emerged instead, wearing the same weary expression as his wife. "Sarah says you want to speak with Amara." His tone held both respect and wariness. "If possible." After a long moment, he sighed. "She probably won't speak to you. She barely speaks to us." "I understand." He nodded once, then led me inside to a closed door. "Amara, someone's here to see you. It's Eros Blackwood." Silence, then movement. The door opened just enough to reveal a sliver of Amara's face, the unscarred side. "Why?" The word was barely audible. "I'd like to talk to you if that's all right." Her visible eye studied me warily. About what? About your wolf. She flinched, the door starting to close. I placed my palm against it, not forcing, just preventing closure. Please, 5 minutes. Then I'll leave if you want. The door opened wider, revealing her fully. My breath caught. This Amara was a shadow, too pale, too thin, dark circles beneath eyes too large for her face. The scar stood out starkly against pallid skin, but it was her flat, empty eyes that affected me most deeply. My wolf surged forward so forcefully I had to clench my fist to prevent partial shifting. The memory of Damon Steele's shocked cry when my blade found its mark burned through me. Protect, help, heal. 5 minutes, she said, stepping back. Her room was sparsely decorated except for bookshelves lining one wall, curtains drawn, casting perpetual twilight. No photographs, no personal mementos. Amara perched rigidly on her bed's edge while I remained standing by the door. Your parents are worried about you. I'm worried about you. That earned genuine surprise. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're in pain, that your wolf has retreated so far you can barely feel her, and I know that if nothing changes you could both be in serious danger. Her expression shuddered. Dr. Cross sent you. No, I came on my own. Why? Because my wolf can sense yours, even when you can't. Her head lifted, eyes narrowing. What? Your wolf isn't gone, Amara. She's hiding, wounded, but alive. I stepped closer carefully. My wolf can feel her presence through the barriers you've built. That's not possible, she whispered, but something flickered in her eyes. No one can feel another's wolf that way. Alphas can, sometimes, especially when there's a connection. Connection? Incredulity filled her voice. We've barely spoken 3 times in 6 years. I know, and that's partly my fault. The pack should have done more instead of treating you like you're contagious. A bitter smile curved her lips. You can say it. I'm the pack cautionary tale. What happens when silver touches wolf skin? You're not a monster, I said firmly. You're a survivor. She laughed hollowly. Is that what this is? Because it feels like slowly dying. Taking a chance, I moved closer and sat on the bed's edge, maintaining space. Your wolf is dying, and you're dying with her. That's wolf sickness, the slow severing of the bond until neither can survive. She didn't deny it. Maybe that's for the best. You don't mean that, don't I? What am I surviving for, Eros? To be the pack freak for 60 more years? My wolf gave up years ago. Maybe I should return the favor. Without thinking, I reached for her hand. She flinched, but didn't pull away. Your wolf hasn't given up. She's waiting for you to find her again. How would you know? Because I can feel her, right now responding to my wolf. She's weak, wounded, but still fighting to live. Something flickered in her eyes, doubt, hope, fear. Even if true, I don't know how to reach her anymore. I've tried for years. Then try something different. Come running with me in the forest. Just the 2 of us. No pressure, no expectations, just freedom. Running? I don't. You don't have to shift, just run as you are. Feel the forest, let your wolf senses expand naturally. Why do you care if my wolf lives or dies? The question demanded honesty I wasn't ready to give. But looking at her, fragile yet unbroken, I couldn't offer less than truth. Because something in me recognizes something in you. I don't fully understand it, but my wolf does. He's been insistent about helping you. She withdrew her hand, wrapping her arms around herself protectively. What kind of connection? I'm not sure. All I know is when I'm near you, my wolf is focused, aware of your presence differently than other pack members, protective, drawn to you in a way I can't explain. She stood abruptly, creating distance. I don't need your pity. It's not pity. Then what? Guilt? Some alpha savior complex? Fixing the pack's broken toy so everyone feels better about ignoring me for 6 years? The accusation stung with its kernel of truth. It's none of those things. I understand your suspicion. You have every right. But I'm offering you a chance, maybe the last chance, to reconnect before it's too late. She turned to the covered window, silent for a long moment. My 5 minutes are up, she said, voice empty again. I stood, recognizing dismissal. At the door I paused. Tomorrow morning, before dawn, I'll be at the eastern trailhead if you change your mind. She didn't respond or turn around. I left quietly. Thomas and Sarah waited anxiously in the hallway. She's considering something, I said carefully. I've offered to take her running tomorrow. Sarah's eyes widened. Running? She hasn't left the house voluntarily in weeks. Sometimes the wolf responds to challenges the human might refuse. If she goes, it should be just you two, Thomas said slowly. Too much pressure might make her retreat further. They exchanged a look laden with years of worry. Finally, Sarah nodded. We trust you, Eros. The simple statement carried sacred weight. I'll do everything I can to help her find her way back. Walking home, I realized I'd missed the council meeting entirely. Political complications would follow, but they seemed secondary to the memory of Amara standing by the window, shoulders rigid with the effort of holding herself together. Please come tomorrow, I thought, sending the wish like a prayer. Give me a chance to help you. Give yourself a chance to heal. My wolf stirred in agreement, more settled than he'd been in weeks. Whatever this connection was between us and Amara Valley, it was growing stronger daily. And for the first time, I stopped fighting it and allowed myself to consider what that might mean.
Chapter 4. After he left, I stood frozen by my window, his words echoing in the silence of my room. The eastern trailhead, before dawn, just the two of us. My wolf stirred restlessly, more present than she'd been in months. The conversation with Eros had awakened something in her, not the desperate clawing I was used to, but a cautious interest, like an animal emerging slowly from hibernation. Run, she whispered, the thought softer than usual. With him. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, watching Eros's retreating figure through the gap in my curtains. Even from a distance, he moved with the fluid grace of someone completely at ease with both his human and wolf sides. The confidence I'd lost so long ago. I can't, I whispered to my reflection, but the words lacked their usual conviction. The next few hours passed in restless agitation. I tried reading, but the words blurred together. I attempted sleep, but my wolf paced anxiously beneath my skin, making rest impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Eros sitting on my bed, his green eyes intense as he spoke of connections and feelings he couldn't explain. Different, my wolf insisted. Safe. Strong. By 3 a.m., I gave up pretending I might sleep. I sat at my window, wrapped in a blanket, watching the eastern sky for the first hints of dawn. The rational part of my mind listed all the reasons I shouldn't go. I hadn't run in years. I might panic and shift uncontrollably. The pack would talk if anyone saw us together. But beneath the fear, something else stirred. Hope, perhaps. Or simply exhaustion from fighting a battle I was clearly losing. When the sky began to lighten with pre-dawn gray, I made my decision. I dressed quickly in old running clothes I found buried in my closet, clothes from before, when I still believed in the possibility of normal. They hung loose on my too thin frame, but they would do. The house was silent as I crept downstairs and slipped out the back door. The cool morning air hit my face, carrying the scents of forest and earth that made my wolf lift her head with interest. The eastern trailhead was a 10-minute walk from our house, a path I'd avoided for years, but knew well from childhood. My footsteps seemed unnaturally loud in the pre-dawn quiet, my heart hammering against my ribs as doubt crept in with each step. What if he wasn't there? What if this was all some elaborate, cruel joke? What if I got there and couldn't go through with it? But as the trailhead came into view, I saw him, a tall figure leaning against an ancient oak, dressed in dark running clothes that made him nearly invisible in the shadows. He straightened when he spotted me, and even in the dim light I could see his surprise. "You came," he said softly, pushing off from the tree. "I couldn't sleep," I admitted, stopping a few feet away. "My wolf, she wanted to come." A slow smile spread across his face, transforming his usually serious expression. "Mine's been restless all night, too." We stood there for a moment, the significance of my presence hanging between us. I'd left my house voluntarily for the first time in weeks. I'd chosen to trust him, despite every instinct screaming at me to retreat. "How do you want to do this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I haven't. It's been so long since I've run anywhere." "We'll start slow," he assured me, falling into step beside me as we approached the trail entrance. "Just walking at first, let you get comfortable. No pressure to shift, no expectations beyond what feels right to you." The trail wound into the forest, shadowed and peaceful in the early morning light. My wolf immediately perked up at the familiar scents and sounds, earth, pine, the distant call of birds beginning their dawn songs. For the first time in months, I felt her curiosity rather than her desperation. "Better?" Eros asked, noticing my slight relaxation. I nodded, surprised to find it was true. Away from watching eyes and judging whispers, some of my constant tension began to ease. We walked in comfortable silence for several minutes, the path gradually climbing through stands of pine and oak. My body, weakened by months of poor eating and little activity, protested the exertion, but my wolf encouraged each step, drinking in the forest atmosphere she'd been denied so long. "Can I ask you something?" Eros said eventually, his tone careful. "You can ask," I replied. "I might not answer." A small smile tugged at his lips. "Fair enough." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "When did you stop believing you could heal?" The question hit deeper than I'd expected, striking at something I'd buried beneath layers of resignation. "I'm not sure I ever believed it," I said after a long moment. "Everyone kept saying I would get better, that time would help, that therapy would work, but I never felt it. The damage felt permanent." "What kind of damage?" he pressed gently. "The scar is visible, but what about the rest?" I was quiet for so long he probably thought I wouldn't answer. But something about the forest, about walking beside him without having to look at his face, made the truth easier to speak. "The silver didn't just cut my skin," I said finally. "It severed something between me and my wolf. We used to be one person, you know? Two sides of the same soul. After that night, it was like there was this wall between us, getting thicker every year I couldn't shift. I touched my scar unconsciously. The physical wound healed. The other one never did." Eros was quiet, processing my words. When he spoke again, his voice was rough with an emotion I couldn't identify. "Your wolf is still there, Amara. Damaged, maybe, but not gone." "How can you be so sure?" He stopped walking, turning to face me fully. "Because she's responding to mine right now. I can feel her presence, her curiosity. She's closer to the surface than she's been in years, isn't she?" He was right, though I wasn't sure I wanted to admit it. My wolf was indeed more present than usual, watching through my eyes, alert and interested, rather than withdrawn. "Maybe," I conceded, "but presence doesn't mean connection. I still can't shift. I still can't hear her clearly or feel what she's feeling." "Those things can be rebuilt," he said with quiet confidence. "The foundation is still there. You just need to remember how to access it." "And you think running will help?" I asked, unable to keep the skepticism from my voice. "I think movement might break down some of those walls," he replied. "Your wolf is a creature of action, of instinct. Sitting still and talking about trauma has its place, but maybe what she needs is to remember what freedom feels like." As if summoned by his words, my wolf pressed forward, not fighting but requesting. The sensation was so gentle compared to her usual desperation that it caught me off guard. "She wants to try," I said, surprise coloring my voice. Eros's expression brightened. "Then let's try." He started with an easy jog, barely faster than our walking pace. My body protested immediately, muscles unused to exertion, lungs burning within minutes. But my wolf surged with excitement, encouraging each step, each breath. "Too fast?" Eros asked, noting my labored breathing. "No," I gasped. "Keep going." We settled into a sustainable rhythm, not fast but steady. My wolf remained present, engaged with our surroundings in a way she hadn't been in years. The wall between us didn't disappear, but it thinned slightly, allowing more sensation to pass between us. The trail curved through a grove of ancient oaks, their canopy filtering the strengthening morning light into dappled patterns. My legs found their rhythm, my breathing evened out, and for brief moments I forgot about everything except the simple pleasure of movement. "Good," Eros said, his own breathing easy despite maintaining my pace. "You're doing great." A laugh escaped me, spontaneous and startling. When had I last laughed while doing anything physical? I'd forgotten, I said between breaths, how this feels. "What does it feel like?" I considered the question as we crested a small hill, the forest opening up before us. "Like being alive," I said finally. "Really alive, not just existing." Eros smiled, and something in his expression made my chest tight in an entirely different way than the exertion. "Your wolf is singing?" he said softly. I looked at him in confusion. "What?" "Her contentment," he explained. "I can sense it. She's happy, Amara. When was the last time you felt her happiness?" The question stopped me cold, literally. I stumbled to a halt, overwhelmed by the realization that he was right. Beneath the careful control I maintained, beneath the walls and the fear, my wolf was happy. Not desperate, not fighting, but genuinely content for the first time in years. I don't remember, I whispered, tears threatening unexpectedly. I don't remember the last time she was happy. Eros stopped beside me, his expression gentle. Then let's give her more reasons to be happy. Without waiting for my response, he veered off the main trail onto a narrower path that wound deeper into the forest. I followed instinctively, trust overriding caution for once. The secondary trail was rougher, requiring more attention to footing and navigation. My wolf loved it. The challenge, the wildness, the sense of venturing into territory few humans explored. Her excitement bubbled up through our thin connection, making me smile despite my exhaustion. "Where are we going?" I asked. "There's a clearing about a mile ahead," Eros replied, ducking under a low branch. "Quiet, private, good place to rest and talk if you want." The promise of solitude, of a place where I wouldn't have to worry about being seen or judged, was appealing. Okay. The trail continued to climb, winding through increasingly dense forest. My legs burned with effort. My breathing was ragged, but my wolf urged me on, her presence stronger with each step into the wilderness. When we finally reached the clearing Eros had promised, I understood why he'd brought me here. It was perfect. A natural meadow surrounded by towering pines, carpeted with wildflowers and soft grass. A small stream bubbled along one edge, and the morning sun filtered through the trees in golden shafts. "It's beautiful," I said, sinking gratefully onto a fallen log at the clearing's edge. Eros settled beside me, leaving space but close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from his body. I come here sometimes when I need to think, or when my wolf needs space to just be. I understood completely. The clearing felt separate from the world, from pack politics and expectations and the weight of other people's opinions. Here, I could simply exist without apology. "How are you feeling?" he asked after we'd caught our breath. I considered the question seriously. "Tired. But good tired, if that makes sense. And my wolf." I paused, reaching tentatively for the connection. "She's more present than she's been in months. Not fighting, just aware." "That's progress," Eros said encouragingly. "Real progress." "Is it enough?" I asked, the question escaping before I could stop it. "Will it be enough to save her?" Eros was quiet for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the stream babbling nearby. "I don't know," he said finally, his honesty brutal and appreciated. "Wolf sickness is serious, and you've been suppressing the connection for years, but today proves the foundation is still there, with work, with patience." "With help?" I finished, looking at him directly for the first time that morning. He met my gaze, his green eyes intense. "If you want it, if you'll let me." The offer hung between us, loaded with implications I wasn't ready to examine too closely, but my wolf responded immediately, pressing forward with something that felt like recognition, like rightness. "Why?" I asked, the same question that had plagued me since his first visit to my room. "Why do you care what happens to me?" Eros studied my face, seeming to weigh his words carefully. "Honestly, I'm not entirely sure, but something in me recognizes something in you. My wolf won't let me ignore you, and I'm tired of fighting what feels inevitable." "Inevitable?" He ran a hand through his dark hair, suddenly looking uncertain in a way that was entirely at odds with his usual confidence. "I don't know what this is between us, Amara, but it's real, and it's growing stronger every time I'm near you. My wolf is convinced you're important, more than pack important, and I'm starting to think he might be right." The admission sent a jolt of something, fear, hope, recognition, through me. My wolf stirred with interest, pushing closer to the surface as if drawn by his words. "That's impossible," I said automatically, falling back on the safety of denial. "I'm nobody. Broken, damaged." "Stop." His voice cut through my litany of self-deprecation with alpha authority. "You're not those things. Wounded, yes. Healing, hopefully, but not broken beyond repair. You don't know?" "I know you got up before dawn to meet someone you barely trust," he interrupted. "I know you ran through the forest despite being out of shape and scared. I know your wolf responded to the possibility of freedom after years of suppression." His voice softened. "I know you're stronger than you think, Amara." Tears threatened again, but this time they felt different, not despair, but something closer to hope. "I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about feeling fearless," Eros said quietly. "It's about doing what needs to be done despite the fear. You've been surviving on strength alone for years." We sat in comfortable silence, the morning sun climbing higher and warming the clearing around us. My wolf remained present and calm, more at peace than she'd been in longer than I could remember. "What happens now?" I asked eventually. "That's up to you," Eros replied. "We could make this a regular thing, running together, giving your wolf safe opportunities to engage. Or if this was too much, if you'd rather—" "No," I said quickly, surprising us both. "I mean, I'd like to try again, if you're willing." His smile was radiant. "I'm willing." As we prepared to head back, taking a different route that would loop us around to avoid the main pack areas, I felt something shift inside me. Not healing, that would take much longer if it was even possible. But a crack in the wall, a small opening through which light could finally enter. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could find my way back to wholeness. And perhaps I wouldn't have to make that journey alone. Chapter 5. I woke to fire in my veins. One moment I was deep in sleep, the next my eyes flew open as pain shot through my body, a burning, tearing sensation that radiated from my chest outward. My back arched off the mattress as I fought against the invasion. My wolf, after years of suppression, she was fighting back. "Let me out!" The mental shout was so clear after years of muffled whimpers that I gasped. My fingers clutched the sheets as another wave of pain crashed through me. This wasn't the usual morning battles, the gentle pressure I'd grown accustomed to. This was rebellion. War. Shift now! My wolf's demand thundered through my consciousness. I felt my canines lengthen against my will, cutting into my lower lip. The taste of blood filled my mouth. "No," I hissed through clenched teeth. "Stop it." But she wasn't listening. 5 years of being caged had pushed her beyond reasoning, beyond the fragile harmony we'd briefly found during that full moon run with Eros, a peace that had faded too quickly. I rolled from the bed, landing hard on hands and knees as my spine began to shift, bones grinding as they prepared to realign. Sweat broke out across my skin as I fought the transformation with every ounce of willpower I possessed. I said no! The shout tore from my throat. For a moment the shifting paused, but seconds later she surged forward again, more determined. Claws erupted from my fingertips, leaving gouges in the wooden floor as I crawled toward the bathroom. If I could reach the cold shower. Another wave dropped me flat, my forehead pressed against the floorboards as I bit back a scream. This couldn't be happening. Not after all these years of control. I caught my reflection in the mirror across the room. The sight froze me with horror and fascination. My eyes glowed amber, wolf eyes in my human face. The partial shift had elongated my jawline, fangs visible against my lip. Dark fur sprouted along my forearms, hands halfway transformed, caught in the agonizing in-between of a shift too long denied. "Let go," my wolf demanded, words accompanied by pain so intense my vision blacked out. "Stop fighting me." "I can't," I whispered through tears. "Please stop." But she was beyond hearing, beyond reason. Years of suppression had twisted her from the playful presence of my childhood into something feral and desperate. When she surged forward again, I lost control completely. My body convulsed as she seized command, fur erupting in patches, my spine cracking as it began to reshape. Terror gave me strength I didn't know I possessed. With a mental shove born of panic, I forced her back. Not completely, but enough to halt the transformation at its halfway point. The result was monstrous. I stared at my reflection, a grotesque hybrid caught between forms in a way no werewolf was meant to exist. Not the smooth, partial shift wolves used for claws or enhanced senses. This was war made flesh. Rage flooded through me, not entirely my own, but a toxic blend of my fear and her fury. With a strangled howl, I lashed out, claws raking across my desk, sending books flying. The mirror shattered under my fist, glass cutting my bleeding knuckles. I couldn't stop. The rage needed an outlet. I tore at bedding, shredded curtains, broke the chair against the wall with strength I shouldn't have possessed. Distantly, I heard pounding on my door, my parents' frantic voices. "Amara, open the door," my father's voice thick with fear. "What's happening? Amara, please." My mother panicked. I opened my mouth to respond, but only a guttural growl emerged. The sound shocked me enough that my concentration slipped, allowing my wolf to surge forward again. This time, she aimed for my legs, forcing bones to begin reshaping. I collapsed, unable to support myself, as the transformation ripped through my lower body. The pain was excruciating, 5 years of suppressed shifts trying to happen at once. The door burst open, my father having broken the lock. I heard their horrified gasps through a haze of pain and tears. "Oh my God," my mother whispered. "Thomas, what's happening to her?" My father knelt beside me, afraid to touch me in this distorted state. "Amara, can you hear me? You need to complete the shift or shift back. You can't stay caught in between." But I couldn't do either. My wolf was too frenzied to complete a proper shift, and I was too terrified to let her. We were locked in a stalemate, tearing our shared body apart. "Call Alpha Marcus," my father said urgently. "Now, tell him it's an emergency." "No," I gasped, the word distorted. "No, Alpha." But my protest went unheeded as my mother rushed from the room. Time lost meaning, measured only in waves of pain between my wolf's assaults. Then a new presence filled the room, powerful, commanding, impossible to ignore. Alpha Marcus stood in the doorway, expression shifting from concern to shock. "Everyone out," he ordered. "I need space with her." My parents hesitated briefly before obeying. Alpha Marcus approached slowly, kneeling beside me with surprising grace. "Amara," he said, and just my name carried weight when spoken by the Alpha. "Look at me." I couldn't disobey. My glowing amber eyes locked onto his deep red ones, power radiating from him that even my feral wolf couldn't ignore. "You're caught between forms," he said gently but authoritatively. "Your wolf has been suppressed too long. This battle will destroy you both if it continues." A whimper escaped me, part human despair, part wolf acknowledgement of his dominance. "I'm going to use an alpha command," he continued. "It will force your wolf to calm enough for you to regain control. Do you understand?" I managed a jerky nod, beyond pride or resistance. Alpha Marcus placed a hand on my forehead, the touch both grounding and electric with power. When he spoke again, his voice vibrated through my bones. "Amara Vale, I command your wolf to be still." The effect was immediate. My wolf, mid-lunge against my barriers, froze. The frenzy driving her ebbed, replaced by forced calm that felt unnatural but desperately welcome. "Now focus on your human form," Alpha Marcus continued, eyes still glowing red. "Picture it clearly. Feel your body returning to its natural state." With my wolf temporarily subdued, I could finally concentrate. I closed my eyes, picturing myself fully human. No claws, no fangs, no patchy fur or distorted limbs. Slowly, agonizingly, my body began to respond. Fur receded, claws retracted, bones shifted back into human alignment. Each change brought its own pain, but it was the clean pain of healing rather than the tearing agony of the half-shift. When it was complete, I lay trembling on the floor, drenched in sweat, utterly drained. My wolf was still present but quiet, not by choice but by command. "Better," Alpha Marcus said softly, removing his hand. He surveyed the destruction, shattered mirror, broken furniture, shredded bedding, claw marks in the floor. His expression was grave but not angry. "This has been building for a long time," he said. I managed a small nod, shame washing over me. The Alpha had seen me at my worst, feral, out of control. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I don't know what happened." "Your wolf didn't attack you, Amara," Alpha Marcus said gently. "She was fighting for her survival, for both your survivals. Wolf suppression is dangerous. Dr. Cross has warned you of this." "I know. This episode was a warning. A wolf forcibly suppressed will eventually break free, and when she does, she'll be feral, untrained, dangerous, to herself, to you, and potentially to others." Fear clutched at my heart. "What happens now?" "First, we need Dr. Cross to examine you. Then we discuss a plan moving forward. This cannot happen again, Amara. Next time I might not arrive in time." The gravity sank in slowly. My wolf had declared war after years of imprisonment. She would not be contained forever. After my parents returned and Dr. Cross examined me, we gathered in the living room to discuss options. 3 paths lay before me: intensive therapy, relocation to a specialized sanctuary, or supervised isolation during my wolf's strongest periods. Then Alpha Marcus mentioned a 4th possibility. "A wolf partner," he said carefully. "Someone whose wolf is strong, stable, able to communicate directly with yours." "And who would volunteer for that job?" I asked bitterly. Alpha Marcus and Dr. Cross exchanged a meaningful glance. "My son," Alpha Marcus said finally. "Eros." The name hit me like a physical blow. "Eros? Why would he—" "Eros has been concerned about you for some time," Alpha Marcus said carefully. "His wolf reacts to yours in a way that suggests natural compatibility." I shook my head. "No, I barely know him, and he's the future alpha. He can't waste time playing therapist to a broken omega. First, you are not broken, Alpha Marcus said firmly. You are wounded, and wounds can heal. Second, how my son spends his time is for him to decide. And third, this would not be charity, but a mutual arrangement with benefits for both parties. Benefits for Eros? I couldn't hide my skepticism. That's a conversation for you and Eros to have, Alpha Marcus replied. If you're open to considering it. 2 days of alpha commands keeping my wolf artificially subdued followed. Each reinforcement felt more wrong, more damaging. On the third morning, I made my decision. I want to try the wolf partner option, I told my parents. With Eros. Events moved quickly. By mid-morning, Alpha Marcus had arrived with Dr. Cross and Eros himself. We gathered in our living room, the space suddenly feeling small. Amara has decided to try the wolf partner approach, Alpha Marcus began. Eros, I need to confirm your willingness to commit to this process. Eros's steady gaze remained on me. I am willing, he said simply. My wolf and I both. Dr. Cross outlined the challenges, my feral wolf, the need for daily interaction, the gradual building of trust. Then we moved to my room for the first session. Sit across from each other, Dr. Cross instructed. Amara, close your eyes and focus on your wolf. Don't try to control her, just acknowledge her presence. I settled cross-legged on the carpet, Eros mirroring me. This close, I could see flecks of gold in his green eyes, smell pine and something spicy. Spicy. Close your eyes, Dr. Cross reminded me. I obeyed, feeling vulnerable with Eros so near. My wolf stirred faintly as I focused inward. Now, Eros, reach out with your wolf. Not dominance, just awareness. Let your wolf acknowledge hers. Through closed eyes, I sensed a shift, a warmth that hadn't been there before. Eros's wolf, reaching out. My wolf responded immediately, pushing against the alpha command with surprising strength. Not aggression or fear, but recognition. Interest. She's responding, I whispered, surprised. What do you feel from her? Dr. Cross asked. Curiosity, wariness, but not fear or anger. She's watching. My wolf recognizes hers, Eros said, his voice closer than expected. He's pleased, eager, but restraining himself. He understands she's fragile right now. The word should have offended me, but it felt accurate, a recognition of the damage suppression had caused. Amara, I'm going to ask Eros to move closer, Dr. Cross said. Is that all right? I checked internally, finding my wolf alert but calm. Yes, it's okay. Eros shifted forward, the space between us narrowing. My wolf's attention sharpened, her presence growing stronger. She's pushing harder now, I reported, anxiety creeping in. Fighting the command. That's expected, Dr. Cross assured me. The proximity of another wolf will naturally challenge the artificial constraint. Is she distressed or alert? Alert. Interested, but confused. She doesn't understand what's happening. Eros, talk to Amara's wolf through your wolf. Let him communicate directly. The energy shifted again. My wolf surged forward so suddenly I gasped, her presence filling my consciousness with intensity I hadn't felt in years. She's right there, I managed, struggling to maintain composure. So close, not taking over, but present, really present. That's good, Eros said softly, his voice reaching past my fears to my wolf directly. That's very good. My wolf responded with submission mixed with defiance, acknowledging his strength while maintaining her identity. It was the healthiest reaction I'd felt from her in years. Open your eyes, Dr. Cross instructed. I obeyed and found Eros watching me with intense focus, his eyes showing hints of luminescence. Your eyes, he said quietly, wonder in his voice. They're amber. I raised a hand to my face, shocked. My wolf was so close my eyes had shifted color, the first external sign of her presence in years. Is that okay? I asked uncertainly. Dr. Cross nodded, cautiously optimistic. It's progress. Your wolf is responding to Eros's in a controlled way. That's exactly what we hoped for. Eros moved back slightly, though his gaze remained fixed on me. Your wolf is beautiful, he said softly. Even just that glimpse of her. The compliment caught me off guard, directed at my wolf rather than me, as if she were something precious rather than dangerous. She's confused, I admitted, about why she can sense your wolf so clearly when she's been alone for so long. She won't be alone anymore, Eros said, the promise carrying weight beyond words. Neither of you will. Dr. Cross cleared her throat. That's enough for today. Your wolf responded remarkably well, but we don't want to push too far. As Eros stood, offering me a hand up, I felt something I'd forgotten was possible. Hope. Not healing, not yet, but the possibility of it. After they left, I remained in my room, processing what had happened. My wolf was still present, closer to the surface than she'd been in years. Not fighting now, but watching, waiting, cautiously hopeful. We might be okay, I thought to my wolf, testing our fragile connection. Somehow we might actually be okay. Her response wasn't words or even feelings exactly, just presence, acknowledgement, the faintest echo of agreement. After years of silence and suppression, it felt like everything.
Chapter 6. The morning air was crisp with autumn's promise as I led the patrol along our northern border. 8 wolves followed in practiced formation, their movements synchronized with mine as we swept through the territory. Scent marker ahead, I called out, pausing at a tree where another wolf had left their mark. Rogue male, passed through yesterday. Jace Rivers moved beside me, tension in his frame. Should we track him? I analyzed the unfamiliar wolf's signature. No aggression in his marking. Trail leads away from our territory. He respected boundaries. Relief filtered through the patrol. Confrontations with rogues could turn deadly, especially with winter approaching. 2 hours later, we'd completed our circuit. As the others dispersed, Jace lingered with obvious intention. "Something on your mind?" I asked. He shifted uncomfortably. "There's talk about you and the Veil girl. People are saying you've been spending time at her house, that Alpha Marcus ordered you to help with her situation." And I kept my expression neutral despite my wolf's immediate stirring. "Some wonder if it's appropriate. You're the future Alpha. Your focus should be on pack matters, not babysitting a damaged Omega who chose to suppress her wolf." My wolf surged forward, a growl building before I could stop it. Jace stepped back instinctively. "Careful," I warned, my voice dropping dangerously. "You're speaking about a pack member under my protection." "I meant no disrespect," he backpedaled. "I'm concerned about appearances. The pack needs to see their future Alpha focused on leadership, not distracted." I studied him, the mixture of genuine concern and self-interest clear in his expression. A true Alpha's duty extends to all pack members, especially those struggling. There is no strength in ignoring vulnerability. "Of course, but this particular situation might be better handled by others. Dr. Cross, perhaps." The suggestion triggered such a possessive response from my wolf I had to steady my breathing. My involvement was requested specifically, and I've made a commitment I intend to honor. Jace's keen eyes searched my face. "This isn't just about duty, is it? There's something more." "My reasons are my own, Jace. As future Alpha, I don't owe explanations for every decision." It was a clear dismissal. Jace's expression closed off, replaced by careful deference. "Of course, I apologize for overstepping." After he left, I couldn't shake the feeling this conversation was postponed, not finished. But today, my focus needed to be on Amara. I found my father overseeing combat training, instructing young wolves with patient authority. When the session ended, he approached with a knowing expression. "How was patrol?" Though I suspected that wasn't his primary concern. "Routine. One rogue marker on the northern border, but the trail led away. No aggression," he nodded. "And Jace, your conversation seemed intense." He expressed concerns about my involvement with Amara, suggested it might undermine my position. Alpha Marcus considered this thoughtfully. "And what do you think?" "I think Jace has his own agenda. My duties include caring for all pack members, not just those who strengthen my political position." A small smile tugged at his lips. "Well said, though appearances do matter in leadership. So you think I should step back?" My wolf bristled at the suggestion. "No, I think you should be clear about why you're not stepping back, with yourself first." The implied question hung between us, one I'd been avoiding. Why was I so drawn to Amara? Why had my wolf fixated on her well-being? "I don't know if I can articulate it yet," I admitted. "It's complicated. Most important things are." He rested a hand on my shoulder. "Walk with me." He led us to a quiet clearing he used for meditation. "Do you remember what I told you after your first adult full moon run? That pack is more than territory or bloodlines. It's a web of connections, a living entity greater than the sum of its parts. And that an Alpha's duty is to feel those connections, understand how each thread affects the whole. What I didn't tell you then is that some connections resonate more strongly. Some threads vibrate at a frequency that calls to you personally, demands attention in ways you can't ignore. My heart rate picked up. Like my connection to Amara. Yes, from the moment her wolf began to suffer, yours has been aware. At first, I thought it was developing alpha instincts, but it's become clear it's something more specific. What do you think it is? He chose his words carefully. I think your wolf has recognized her as something significant to your future, perhaps even your true mate. The word landed like a thunderclap in my chest. My pulse surged, echoing in my ears as my father watched me with quiet gravity. True mate, I repeated, almost disbelieving. But she's an Omega. She rejected her wolf. How could— Instinct does not care for rank or circumstance, he interrupted gently. Your wolf recognizes what your mind resists. That bond can defy logic, defy the order we think we understand. I stared down at my hands, claws threatening to break through my skin as my wolf stirred with restless energy. The thought of Amara, fragile, wounded, yet fierce in the way she endured, set something wild thrumming through me. She isn't ready, I said finally, my voice raw. Even if this is true, she's barely holding herself together. Then your task is not to claim, my father said, but to protect, to steady her until she can stand on her own paws, and only then let her choose if she walks beside you. A sharp ache pierced my chest at the idea of her choosing someone else. My wolf snarled silently in protest, but I forced the sound down, locking it behind my teeth. You speak as if you're certain. I have seen many bonds in my years. None have sparked your wolf's fury and devotion like this. You would burn the world to shield her, even if you do not name it love yet. Silence settled between us, filled only by the distant call of a hawk overhead. What if I fail her? I whispered. You won't, he said simply, because you have already decided you won't. I drew a slow, steadying breath. Then I'll see this through, whatever it takes. My father's eyes softened. That is what it means to be alpha. As we left the clearing, my wolf surged quietly beneath my skin, fierce, unrelenting, and certain of one truth now blazing like fire through my veins. Amara was not a distraction.
Chapter 7. Today was my 18th birthday. I woke up early, feeling nervous but excited. For werewolves, turning 18 means becoming a full adult. Your wolf gets stronger, and sometimes you might find your mate. I'd been working with Eros for 3 months to heal my wolf. After a scary time when I was younger, my wolf had been hiding inside me. But Eros helped me feel safe again. Now we were friends, and maybe something more. Mom brought me breakfast in bed, blueberry muffins and tea. Happy birthday, sweetie, she said with a big smile. How do you feel? Scared, I said honestly. Everything feels different today. Mom sat on my bed. That's normal. Your wolf is growing up too. She looked at me with loving eyes. And about finding your mate, that might happen today. My heart jumped. I'd been wondering about Eros and me. My wolf always felt calm and happy around him. Eros came over with Dr. Cross for one last talk before the big ceremony. He looked different today. More serious, more focused. When our eyes met, I felt butterflies in my stomach. Happy birthday, Amara, he said softly. We sat in the garden like always. Dr. Cross explained that if I found my mate today, it would feel like a lightning bolt of knowing. But she said I didn't have to do anything right away. I could take my time. I kept stealing looks at Eros. He seemed nervous too, which was strange since he was usually so calm and strong. His eyes never left my face, like he was trying to tell me something without words. After Dr. Cross left, Eros and I sat alone. The air felt thick with unspoken things. Are you ready for today? He asked. I think so, I said, though my voice shook a little. He reached over and gently took my hand. Whatever happens, I want you to know, you're the strongest person I've ever met, and I'm proud to be your friend. The way he said friend made my heart ache, like he wanted to say something else but was holding back. The whole pack gathered in the forest clearing for my ceremony. Someone had hung pretty lanterns everywhere, and there was a big pile of wood ready to become a bonfire. I couldn't believe all these people came just for me. Alpha Marcus gave a speech about how I'd overcome hard things and found my way back to the pack. When he talked about my journey, I saw people nodding and smiling. Some even had tears in their eyes. Light the fire, Alpha Marcus said. With shaking hands, I touched the torch to the wood. As flames grew tall, everyone howled and cheered. The sound filled my heart with warmth. People came up to congratulate me and give me gifts. Even kids who used to be scared of me now wanted to talk. It felt like I really belonged again. But through it all, I kept looking for Eros. He stayed at the edge of the crowd, watching me with those green eyes. Every time our eyes met, something electric passed between us. As the sun started to set, Alpha Marcus announced the traditional birthday run. Amara will lead us, he said, and Eros will run beside her as future Alpha. My heart hammered. Leading the pack was scary enough, but running with Eros when these feelings were so strong? We all changed into our wolf forms. My wolf felt different today, more confident, more alive. When I looked at Eros's big black wolf, my wolf practically purred with happiness. I started running, and the whole pack followed. It felt amazing. Wind in my fur, the forest flying by, my pack family running with me. Eros stayed close, his wolf beautiful and strong beside mine. Then it happened. Halfway through the run, when Eros's wolf bumped against mine to steady me, the world exploded. Lightning shot through me, connecting us in a way that took my breath away. Suddenly I could see everything. All the times Eros had watched me from afar when we were younger, worrying about me. All the gentle patience he'd shown when helping my wolf heal. All the moments his eyes lingered on me with something deeper than friendship. My wolf sang with joy. Mate, our mate. Eros's wolf pressed his big head against mine so tenderly. His green eyes were full of the same recognition, the same overwhelming love. But instead of happiness, panic flooded me. This was too much, too fast, too public. I wasn't ready for everyone to know, to have expectations about being the future Alpha's mate. So I ran. I bolted into the deep forest, away from the pack, away from Eros, away from the beautiful, terrifying truth. Luna Elena found me by a stream, crying in my human form. She shifted too and sat beside me without saying a word, just being there, understanding. "I'm sorry I ran," I whispered. "You have nothing to be sorry for," she said gently. "Mate bonds are overwhelming. You're allowed to need time." Does everyone know? Some guessed something important happened, but this is between you and Eros. Take all the time you need. She helped me understand that recognizing your mate doesn't mean you have to change everything right away. You can go slow, figure it out together. "Eros is waiting," she said softly. "New mates don't like being apart. Maybe just talk to him." When we got back to the clearing, I saw Eros right away. He was pacing by the fire, running his hands through his hair, looking worried sick. The moment he saw me, his whole face lit up with relief. He started toward me, then stopped, unsure if I wanted him close. My wolf whined inside me. She wanted to run to him, to feel that connection again. And you know what? So did I.
Chapter 8. I felt her coming back before I saw her. The mate bond pulled at my chest, warm and strong, telling me Amara was close. My wolf had been pacing inside me ever since she ran into the forest, worried and wanting to follow her. Only Dad's gentle hand on my shoulder had kept me here, waiting. "She's returning," Dad said quietly, "with your mother." Relief flooded through me. When the mate bond first snapped into place during our run, it felt like lightning. But when she ran away, scared and overwhelmed, it hurt like part of me was being stretched too thin. Two wolves came out of the trees, Mom's silver form and Amara's smaller dark gray one with the white patch on her chest. My eyes changed color without my permission, my wolf so happy to see our mate safe. They shifted back to human form and put on robes. When Amara looked at me across the clearing, that electric feeling shot through the bond again. But this time she didn't run. This time she walked toward me. "Hi," she said softly when she reached me. "Hi," I said back, my voice rough with worry. "Are you okay?" "Scared," she admitted, "but okay." Those simple words meant everything to me. She was here. She was talking to me. She hadn't rejected what we'd discovered. "We don't have to talk about it tonight if you're not ready," I told her quickly. "I just needed to know you were safe." Her eyes softened. I felt it too. The connection. It was real. My heart nearly stopped with happiness. "I've been hoping for so long," I whispered, "but I didn't want to push." She took a tiny step closer. "I need time to understand what this means." "All the time you need," I promised immediately. "I'm not going anywhere." We found a quiet spot away from the crowd, a little pavilion with soft lanterns and a warm fire. Sitting close enough that the mate bond felt comfortable, but far enough apart that she didn't feel pressured. "So," she said, looking down at her hands, "a mate bond, on my 18th birthday. Are you upset?" I asked carefully. She was quiet for a moment. I'm not exactly the mate most people would expect for the future alpha. I'm damaged, from an Omega family, the pack outcast for years. Stop, I said firmly. None of that matters to me or my wolf. What I see is your strength, your kind heart, your amazing journey back from something that could have broken anyone. Her cheeks turned pink. The pack will have opinions. The pack always has opinions about everything, I said with a small smile. But Amara, mate bonds aren't about politics. Our wolves recognized something real between us. I know, she whispered. My wolf is so certain, so happy about this. But my human side is terrified. After years of being alone, having walls to protect myself, this bond went around all my defenses in 1 second. I wanted so badly to hold her hand, to comfort her, but I waited for her to be ready. What do you need from me? Time, she said. Time to understand what this means. And maybe we could be friends first? Friends who know there's something more, but don't have to figure it all out tonight. My wolf whined at the word friends, wanting so much more. But looking at her face, seeing how brave she was being just by staying here and talking to me, I knew this was right. I would love to be your friend, Amara, I said honestly, for as long as you want. The smile she gave me was like sunshine. Thank you, for being patient, for not pushing, for being exactly what I needed. I held out my hand, and after a moment, she took it. The mate bond hummed happily at even this small touch. Happy birthday, I said. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. I woke up missing her. The mate bond made it hard to be apart, like a constant awareness of where she was and how she was feeling. My wolf wanted to run straight to her house, but I made myself go for a long run instead, trying to burn off the energy. Dr. Cross came to see me while I was having breakfast. How are you handling the separation? She asked kindly. It's hard, I admitted. My wolf wants to be with her every second, but I know she needs space. That's very mature of you, Eros, Dr. Cross said. Not all wolves would put their mate's emotional needs first. She suggested we have regular meetings, 3 times a week to start, so the bond could stay stable without overwhelming Amara. It wasn't what my wolf wanted, but it was smart. If Amara agrees, I'm willing, I said. Good. And Eros, remember to be honest about your feelings too. She needs to know what you're thinking, even when it's different from what she's thinking. After she left, Mom came by. She sat at my little kitchen table and smiled at me. Your father and I want to help however we can, she said. This is new territory for both of you. I'm trying to give her everything she needs, I said. But it's hard when my instincts want to claim her, protect her, be with her constantly. Mom nodded, understanding. That's normal for an alpha wolf with a new mate. Your father went through the same thing. How did you handle it when you and Dad first bonded? With less grace than I like to remember, she laughed. There were arguments and doubts, but underneath it all, we always knew we belonged together. I want that with Amara, I said quietly, but I'm scared her past will always make it hard for her to trust completely. Healing takes time, Mom said gently, but Amara has shown incredible strength. Trust in that. She'll find her way, and you'll be there to support her when she does. Her words made me feel better. Amara had already overcome so much. If anyone could handle this new challenge, it was her. The next few days were hard. The mate bond pulled at me constantly, my wolf restless and wanting to seek her out. But I kept my promise. I went to my training sessions, attended pack meetings, and tried to act normal even though everything had changed. People kept looking at me strangely, whispering when they thought I couldn't hear. News traveled fast in our pack, and everyone knew something big had happened during Amara's birthday run. Maya Winters looked especially unhappy whenever she saw me. She'd always hoped I might choose her as my mate someday, but my wolf had never felt anything for her beyond polite friendship. Jace came to talk to me one evening, clearly uncomfortable. So it's true? You and Amara Vale? Yes, I said simply. The mate bond formed during her birthday run. He was quiet for a moment. That's unexpected, given her background. My wolf didn't like his tone. Mate bonds don't care about bloodlines or pack politics, Jace. They're about finding your perfect match. Of course, he said quickly. I just worry about how the pack will react. The pack will adjust, I said firmly. Anyone who has a problem with my mate will answer to me. He nodded and changed the subject, but I could tell he wasn't happy about it. That was his problem, not mine. The only opinions that mattered were Amara's and mine, and maybe it would take time for her to be ready for everything that came with being my mate, but I would wait. I would be patient and kind and supportive for as long as it took, because she was worth it. She was worth everything. 3 days after her birthday, I finally saw her again. Dr. Cross had arranged our first official session to help us both understand the mate bond better. Amara looked nervous when she arrived, but she smiled when she saw me. That smile made my whole day brighter. "How are you feeling?" I asked as we sat down. "Better," she said, "less overwhelmed. The bond feels quieter now." "For me too," I agreed, "though I still miss you when we're apart." She blushed prettily. "I miss you too. My wolf gets restless when you're not around." Dr. Cross smiled at us. "That's completely normal. The bond is stabilizing, finding its place in your daily lives." We talked about what the mate bond meant, how to manage the physical and emotional aspects, what our options were for the future. Dr. Cross made it clear that we could take as much time as we needed, that there was no rush to make everything official. "What do you want, Amara?" I asked when she seemed uncertain. "Not what you think you should want, but what your heart tells you." She was quiet for a long moment. "I want to try," she said finally. "I want to see what we could be together, but slowly, at my pace." "Your pace is perfect," I assured her. "We have all the time in the world." After the session, I walked her partway home. When we reached the path to her house, she hesitated. "Eros," she said softly. "Yes? Thank you for being so patient with me. I know this isn't easy for you either." I took her hand gently. "Amara, you're my mate. My wolf chose you, and so did my heart. Nothing about you is too much trouble or too much work. You're exactly who I want." Tears sparkled in her eyes. "Even with all my fears and baggage?" "Especially with all of that," I said firmly. "Because it made you who you are. Strong, brave, compassionate. Perfect for me." She squeezed my hand. "I'm starting to believe that might be true." "It is true," I promised. "And I'll spend as long as it takes proving it to you." As she walked toward her house, I felt the mate bond stretch, but not painfully. It was getting easier each day, and so was she. We were learning to be together in a new way, building something beautiful, one careful step at a time. My patient, gentle approach was working. Soon, she would see what I already knew, that we were meant to be together, that our bond was a gift, not a burden. And I would be right there beside her when she did. Chapter 9. The pack council meeting was tense from the moment I walked in. Everyone kept glancing at me, and I could tell they'd been talking about Amara and me before I arrived. News traveled fast in our small pack. Dad called the meeting to order, trying to keep things normal with territory reports and patrol schedules. But I could feel the real topic bubbling under the surface, waiting to explode. It came during planning for the Harvest Moon ceremony. "We need to assign traditional roles," Elder Thomas said, his eyes finding mine, "including the winter prayer, usually given by the future Alpha and their chosen partner." The room went quiet. Everyone was staring at me now. "The winter prayer will be offered as tradition requires," I said carefully. "We can finalize ceremony details closer to the date." But Elder Thomas wouldn't let it go. "We usually prepare well in advance, especially for participants who might be new to such ceremonies." His meaning was crystal clear. He was talking about Amara. My wolf growled low in my chest. Beta Morrison decided to cut through the games. "Let's address what we're all thinking. Something significant happened during Amara Val's birthday run." All eyes on me. Dad stayed quiet, letting me handle it, a test of my leadership. "A mate bond formed," I confirmed. "No point in lying to the pack leaders, as sometimes happens when wolves reach full maturity." Murmurs around the table. Most had suspected, but now they knew for sure. "And the status of this bond?" Beta Morrison asked respectfully. "We've acknowledged it between us," I said. "Formal pack recognition is still being discussed." That's when Councilwoman Diana Winters struck. Maya's mother, who'd been pushing her daughter as my potential mate for years. "With respect," she said in a tone that showed no respect at all, "this affects the whole pack. The future Alpha's mate will be Luna someday. We have a right to know if Amara Val is being considered for this role." My wolf surged forward, eyes flashing with anger. Several council members shifted uncomfortably, sensing my displeasure. Mate bonds aren't considerations, I said, my voice dropping dangerously low. They're sacred recognitions. They don't need committee approval. Diana pressed on, foolishly. No one's saying approval is needed, but Amara's history raises legitimate concerns about leadership suitability, regardless of biological compatibility. Before I could respond, probably less diplomatically than my position required, Dad stepped in. Mate bonds have existed since the first wolves walked the earth, he said with quiet alpha authority. They transcend our politics and hierarchies. They are to be respected, not questioned. Diana backed down slightly, but didn't give up. Of course, Alpha. I just think the pack's welfare must be considered in leadership matters. And you believe Amara Vale threatens that welfare? Dad asked, his tone deadly calm. I believe her background, Omega bloodline, years of wolf suppression, limited pack integration, presents unique challenges, Diana said carefully. Dad shut her down. Your concern is noted. Now back to ceremony planning. When everyone left, Dad and I stayed behind. That went about as expected, he said with a tired smile. Diana's been angling to make Maya my mate for years, I said, frustrated. I should have seen this coming. She's not the only one with disappointed ambitions, Dad pointed out. Several families had similar hopes. Diana was just the first to voice objections openly. I ran my hands through my hair. I wanted to give Amara more time before facing this kind of scrutiny. Leadership rarely allows for the luxury of time, Dad said gently. But don't underestimate Amara's strength. She might handle this better than you think. I don't doubt her strength, I said. I've seen what she can overcome, but she's still healing, still finding her place in the pack. This added pressure might be exactly what helps her fully claim that place, Dad suggested. Sometimes we're forged strongest in fires we'd never choose. His words made sense, but I still worried about Amara. I need to warn her before she hears rumors from someone else. Good idea, Dad agreed. But remember, Eros, protecting her from pack politics, isn't sustainable long-term. If she's going to be your mate, your Luna, she needs to learn to navigate these waters herself. I know, I said, but that doesn't mean throwing her in the deep end without warning. I headed to the training grounds for my scheduled combat session with the younger wolves. Teaching was usually one of my favorite duties, but today my mind was elsewhere. I was watching the students practice when Maya appeared beside me. Interesting council meeting this morning, she said casually. Mother mentioned quite a lively discussion. I kept my expression neutral. Council business is confidential until official announcements. Of course, she agreed, though some matters are hard to keep private in a pack this size. My patience was wearing thin. If you have something to say, Maya, say it directly. She dropped the act. Is it true about you and Amara Vale? A mate bond formed during her birthday run, yes, I confirmed. Pain flashed across her face before pride masked it. That's unexpected. For everyone, I acknowledged, softening slightly. Whatever her ambitions, she was still a pack member. Are you certain? She asked desperately. Mate bonds can be misinterpreted sometimes. There was nothing ambiguous about it, I said firmly. The bond is real, Maya. While formal recognition is still being determined, the bond itself isn't in question. She was quiet, processing this. When she spoke again, her tone had hardened. The pack will have concerns. Amara's been absent from pack life for years. Her wolf was suppressed so long many thought she'd never shift. And her bloodline is irrelevant, I cut her off, my patience finally snapping. As is her past suppression, which she overcame with extraordinary courage. If you or anyone else has concerns about my mate, keep them to yourself unless you're prepared to voice them officially to me. The warning was clear. Maya was smart enough to back down. No disrespect intended, future Alpha. I was just surprised. Your surprise is noted, I replied coldly. Now excuse me, I have training to oversee. She left without another word. I knew our exchange had been watched, would spread further gossip. I needed to find Amara before rumors reached her without context. After training ended, I headed toward Amara's house but caught her scent in the forest. I followed it to a small clearing where she sat on a fallen log with a book, though she wasn't reading. She looked up as I approached, unsurprised. I sensed you coming. It's disconcerting, suddenly being so aware of your location. The mate bond creates connections beyond normal pack awareness, I explained, stopping at a respectful distance. She gestured to the space beside her. You can sit. I won't run this time. Her small joke made me smile as I settled next to her, careful not to crowd her. How are you? Overwhelmed, she admitted honestly, but processing. Dr. Cross helped put things in perspective this morning. I'm glad. She suggested regular sessions might help us both adjust, respecting your need for space while managing the bond. She mentioned that. It seems sensible, a middle ground. Relief flooded me at her acceptance. It would let the bond stabilize without forcing decisions we're not ready for. She studied me thoughtfully. You keep saying we as if you're also uncertain, but I sense your wolf is anything but unsure. Her perceptiveness caught me off guard. My wolf is convinced, has been longer than I realized, but that doesn't mean I want to pressure you based on his certainty. What about you, though? She pressed gently. Not your wolf, you Eros. How do you feel about being bound to the pack's damaged Omega? The self-deprecating description sparked protective anger. Don't call yourself that, I said sharply. You're not damaged, Amara. You're healing. There's a profound difference. She looked startled by my intensity, then thoughtful. Fair enough, the question remains. I took a deep breath, choosing complete honesty. I feel honored, grateful my wolf recognized something in you that I was slower to see, determined to be worthy of this connection, whatever form it takes. Wonder flickered across her face. You really mean that? Yes, I said simply. I do. She was quiet, absorbing this. I don't know how to reconcile our wolves' certainty with the complications we face. The pack politics, expectations, scrutiny. This was my opening. About that scrutiny, it's already starting. The council meeting included pointed questions about our bond. Alarm flashed across her face. What kind of questions? Predictable ones about timing and formal recognition, and less predictable ones about your suitability as future Luna, given your background. To my surprise, she smiled wryly. Let me guess, Diana Winters led that inquiry? How did you know? She's been positioning Maya as your ideal match for years. Everyone knows, even those of us avoiding pack gatherings. She wasn't subtle. Her insight impressed me. You're right, and she won't be the only one with reservations. Of course not, she said with surprising calm. You're the future alpha. Your mate becomes Luna, a position of real influence. People have opinions about who should hold such roles. Her mature acceptance surprised me, given her usual aversion to attention. You're taking this more philosophically than expected. She shrugged, looking down at her book. I've had time to think since yesterday, about what this bond means, what changes it would bring if I fully embraced it. She met my eyes. I'm not ready for that yet, but I'm not naive about what being your mate would entail. Her mature perspective impressed me, reinforcing Dad's point about not underestimating her strength. So what do you want to do about the immediate situation? She was quiet for a moment, thinking. I want to try, she said finally. I want to see what we could be together, but slowly, at my pace, without being pushed by pack politics or expectations. Your pace is perfect, I assured her immediately. We have all the time you need. She smiled, the first truly relaxed smile I'd seen from her since the bond formed. Thank you for being so patient with me, for putting my needs first even when it can't be easy for you. Amara, I said seriously, taking her hand gently, you're my mate. My wolf chose you, and so did my heart. Your comfort and happiness come before everything else. My wants, the pack's opinions, political expectations, everything. Tears sparkled in her eyes, even with all my fears and complications. Especially with those, I said firmly. They make you who you are, strong, compassionate, incredibly brave, perfect for me. She squeezed my hand. I'm starting to believe that might be true. It is true, I promised, and I'll spend however long it takes proving it to you, at whatever pace you need. As we sat together in the peaceful clearing, the mate bond humming contentedly between us, I felt more certain than ever that we would find our way through the pack politics and external pressures. We would build something beautiful together, not because we had to, but because we chose to. And I would protect her from anything that threatened that choice, while supporting her as she grew strong enough to face those challenges herself.
Chapter 10. The whispers followed me everywhere now. I heard them at the community center, conversations that stopped when I passed, then resumed in hushed tones. Eyes tracked my movements before quickly looking away when I caught them staring. Pack members who'd never spoken to me before suddenly offered nervous smiles, eager to connect with the future Alpha's mate. Mate. The word still felt strange, even with the bond humming inside me like a second heartbeat. 2 weeks had passed since Jace Rivers confessed to the threatening letters. Alpha Marcus had banished him to the Pack's northern outpost for 6 months. Serious punishment, but not permanent. The Alpha believed in second chances. Those 2 weeks had brought our bond from whispered rumors to public knowledge, and now everyone watched us. Did you hear what she said to Diana Winters? The future Alpha nearly killed Jace when he found out. Will they announce it officially at the Harvest Moon ceremony? The gossip reached my ears as I walked through the community center toward the library, my arms full of books to return. I kept my face neutral, my steps steady, pretending not to hear what people said about me, about us, just a few feet away. It was exhausting. After years of being invisible, this spotlight felt like standing naked in the town square. Amara? I turned to find Zara approaching, her smile genuine unlike so many others lately. Since my birthday, our childhood friendship had been slowly healing. It wasn't the same easy closeness we'd once shared, but it was real. Hiding in the books again? She asked, nodding at the stack in my arms. Something like that, I admitted with a small smile. Books don't stare or whisper. Zara's face turned sympathetic as she walked with me. Still bad? Getting worse, I said quietly as we reached the library desk. The threats and Jace's punishment made everything more public than I was ready for. She helped me set the books down, lowering her voice as several pack members watched us with obvious curiosity. Have you talked to Eros about it? About how uncomfortable all the attention makes you? I sighed, signing the return form that Elder Rebecca pushed toward me with an overly eager smile. He knows. He feels guilty, which makes me feel guilty for making him feel guilty. It's a whole cycle. Zara snorted, the same inelegant sound from our childhood that cut through my anxiety. You two are quite the pair, both taking blame for things you can't control. I finished the form and moved away from the counter, lowering my voice as we headed toward the shelves. The bond makes everything more complicated. I can feel his concern, his frustration on my behalf. It's like carrying both our emotions at once. That sounds intense, Zara said, helping me scan the shelves for new books. That's one word for it, I agreed, pulling a novel from the historical fiction section. Sometimes it's nice, comforting to feel his presence even when we're apart. Other times it's overwhelming, knowing someone else is so connected to your emotions that there's nowhere to hide. But you haven't rejected the bond, Zara noted, watching me carefully. Despite the attention, the complications, the pressure, you're still considering it. Her simple observation made me pause. She was right. Despite the discomfort, despite how the bond would change my carefully rebuilt life, I hadn't pulled away. Hadn't tried to reject or ignore the connection that formed so unexpectedly on my birthday. I guess I am, I said, surprised by my own realization. Before Zara could respond, Maya Winters appeared at the end of the aisle. Her beautiful face wore a polite expression that didn't reach her eyes, and I could smell the bitter edge of her emotions beneath expensive perfume. Amara, Zara, she greeted us, her tone carefully controlled. I thought I recognized your voices. Maya, Zara replied neutrally, her body shifting protectively beside me. Something we can help you with? Maya's perfect smile didn't waver. Actually, I was hoping for a word with Amara. Privately, if you don't mind. The request set off alarm bells. Maya had made no secret of her disappointment about my bond with Eros, though she'd been careful to stay polite in public since her mother's pointed questions at the council meeting. Anything you need to say to me can be said in front of Zara, I replied, keeping my voice even despite the anxiety in my stomach. Maya's smile tightened slightly, but she nodded. As you wish. I wanted to clear the air between us, given recent developments. Clear the air, I repeated skeptically. Yes, she confirmed, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. Despite what you might think, I don't have anything personal against you, Amara. My concerns about your connection with Eros are about pack welfare, not personal jealousy. Her careful wording, connection instead of mate bond? wasn't lost on me. Your concern is noted, I said, deliberately echoing Alpha Marcus's dismissal of her mother's objections. Is there anything else? A flash of irritation crossed her face before being quickly hidden. Actually, yes, I wanted to warn you, as one pack member to another, that not everyone will be as direct as my mother or as dramatic as Jace in expressing their concerns about your potential position. Warn me? I repeated, my wariness increasing. Some will smile to your face while working against you behind the scenes, she continued, her tone almost sympathetic despite the threatening undertone. Pack politics can be complex, especially for someone with limited experience. As future Luna, you'd face challenges that would be difficult even for wolves born to leadership, let alone a damaged Omega? I finished for her, unable to keep the edge from my voice. Maya looked slightly uncomfortable at having her implications stated so bluntly. I was going to say, someone who's been isolated from pack activities for years. Your bloodline doesn't matter compared to your lack of leadership experience. What exactly are you trying to accomplish here, Maya? Zara interjected, her usual diplomacy giving way to protective irritation. Because this sounds less like clearing the air and more like a threat. Not a threat, Maya said smoothly. A reality check. The path Amara is considering, formally claiming a mate bond with the future Alpha, comes with consequences beyond the person's scrutiny, expectations, responsibilities she may not be prepared for. I studied her for a moment, processing the layers beneath her words. Despite her obvious self-interest, there was truth I couldn't entirely dismiss. The role of Luna would indeed come with challenges I had little preparation for after years of isolation. I appreciate your concern, I said finally, choosing my words carefully. But mate, bonds aren't political appointments or career choices. Perhaps, Maya conceded, though her expression suggested doubt. But recognizing a bond and formally claiming the position that comes with it are different matters. One is biological, the other a choice with implications for the entire pack. Before I could respond, a new scent reached me, warm and familiar, sending the mate bond humming with recognition before I even turned to see Eros approaching from the main entrance. His expression was neutral, but I could feel his concern and anger through our connection as he registered what was happening. Maya, he greeted her, his voice carrying the subtle authority he rarely used outside official pack business. Is everything all right here? Maya's manner shifted immediately, becoming more respectful, though her composure remained. Perfectly fine, future Alpha. Just having a friendly conversation with Amara and Zara. I see, Eros said, clearly not believing her, but too diplomatic to call her on it directly. Well, I apologize for interrupting, but I need to speak with Amara about something time-sensitive. The polite dismissal was unmistakable. Maya inclined her head slightly, accepting the command with outward grace. Of course, we can continue our discussion another time, Amara. After she left, Eros turned to me, concern clear in his expression despite his attempt at casualness. Everything okay? Just Maya being Maya, I said, trying to downplay the encounter even though I knew he could probably sense my discomfort through the bond. Offering helpful warnings about the challenges of being Luna. His jaw tightened slightly. I felt your distress through the bond. I wasn't sure if it was another threat, I finished when he hesitated. No, nothing that direct. Just reminders of how many people are watching, judging, waiting for me to prove I'm not worthy of a position I haven't even claimed yet. Zara, sensing we needed privacy, touched my arm lightly. I should go. Promised Dad I'd help with inventory this afternoon. We'll catch up later. After she left, Eros and I found ourselves trying to have a private conversation in a very public space, with curious eyes watching our every move despite their pretense of interest in the books around us. Was there actually something time-sensitive, or was that just an excuse to rescue me? I asked quietly, moving deeper into the stacks where we might have the illusion of privacy. A bit of both, he admitted, following me into the relative seclusion of the history section. I did want to speak with you, but I also felt your discomfort through the bond and wanted to make sure you were okay. His simple admission, that he had responded to my emotional state from a distance, had come to check on me without being asked, touched something deep inside me. After years of isolation, of being overlooked and forgotten, Having someone constantly aware of my well-being still felt foreign, almost unbelievable. "I'm fine," I assured him, softening my tone. "Maya was just reminding me of the political realities of our situation, nothing I haven't already thought about." Eros studied me, his green eyes serious in the dim light between the shelves. "But her words bothered you nonetheless." It wasn't a question. The bond between us carried emotional states with increasing clarity as days passed, making it hard to hide reactions even when I tried. "Only because there's some truth to them," I admitted with a sigh. "I don't have experience with leadership. I haven't been actively involved in pack politics or community management. The role of Luna traditionally involves both." "Experience can be gained," Eros pointed out gently, stepping closer. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining with careful tenderness. "Knowledge can be taught. Character and integrity, those are the foundations that matter, and you have both, in abundance." The compliment brought warmth to my cheeks, despite my attempt to stay composed. "You're biased," I countered, though I couldn't help a small smile. "Perceptive," he corrected, returning the smile briefly, before growing more serious. His thumb traced gentle circles over my knuckles, the simple touch both soothing and distracting. "But that's not what I came to discuss. The council met this morning to finalize arrangements for the Harvest Moon ceremony next week." My stomach tightened at the mention of the upcoming event, one of the pack's most significant annual gatherings, where everyone from elders to children participated in traditional rituals marking the transition toward winter. "And?" I prompted when he hesitated, his thumb still moving in those comforting circles. "The winter prayer," he said carefully, "traditionally offered by the alpha or future alpha and their mate or intended." The implication hung between us, heavy with significance. The winter prayer was more than words. It was a formal blessing, a request for the pack's protection during the harsh months ahead. Having me participate would be a clear public statement about my position as Eros's chosen mate. "Your father mentioned something about this after my birthday," I recalled, anxiety building at the thought of such a public role. "What happens if we don't participate together? Is there precedent for that?" "There are alternatives," Eros acknowledged, his free hand coming up to cup my cheek with infinite gentleness. "I could offer it alone or with my mother. But it would be noticed," I finished, interpreted as a statement about our bond. "Yes," he confirmed simply, "it would." I leaned into his touch, drawing comfort from the steady warmth of his palm against my cheek. "What do you want to do?" "Honestly," he sighed, his hand moving to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear with careful tenderness, "my wolf wants nothing more than to stand with you before the entire pack to make our bond unquestionably clear to everyone. But I also understand your hesitation, your need for gradual adjustment after years of avoiding public attention." His candid admission, acknowledging both his desires and his respect for my boundaries, touched me deeply. So many others might have pushed, might have used political advantages or traditional expectations. Instead, he continued to prioritize my comfort, even when it complicated his position. "When do you need an answer?" I asked, leaning into the steady strength of his presence. "The ceremony is in 8 days," he said, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone. "But the council needs to finalize arrangements by the end of the week. So, 3 days?" I nodded, grateful for even this small window. "I'll think about it. Talk to Dr. Cross, maybe my parents." "Of course," he agreed immediately, both hands now framing my face with such tenderness it made my heart ache. "Whatever you decide, I'll support. We can make it work either way." The simple reassurance eased some of my anxiety, though the underlying question remained heavy between us. At some point, sooner rather than later, we would need to decide how public, how formal our bond would become. "I should go," I said reluctantly, aware that our extended private conversation was likely fueling more gossip. "I promised Mom I'd help with preparations for family dinner tonight." Eros nodded, though I could sense his reluctance to end our time together through the bond. "Our session with Dr. Cross is tomorrow morning?" "Yes, 10 o'clock, I confirmed. As I turned to leave, he caught my hand gently, bringing it to his lips to press a soft kiss to my palm. The gesture was so tender, so reverent, it sent warmth flooding through the bond between us. "Amara," he said quietly, his voice carrying an intensity that made my breath catch. Whatever you decide about the ceremony, about any of this, it doesn't change what exists between us. The bond is real, whether publicly acknowledged or not." The simple truth in his words stayed with me as I made my way home, weaving through the pack grounds with my head down to avoid curious gazes. The bond between us was indeed real, an undeniable connection that had grown stronger, clearer, with each passing day despite my initial fear and resistance. What remained uncertain was what that reality meant for my future, for the life I had cautiously begun rebuilding. The role of Luna carried weight, responsibility, visibility I had never sought. Yet increasingly, I couldn't imagine severing the connection that had formed so unexpectedly between us. By the time I reached home, my head was spinning with conflicting thoughts and emotions, not all of them my own, as the bond continued to carry echoes of Eros's concern and hope. "There you are," Mom greeted me as I entered, her smile warm, though her eyes carried the worried assessment I'd grown used to since the threats emerged. "Everything okay at the community center?" "Fine," I said automatically, then amended when she raised a skeptical eyebrow. "Well, the usual. Whispers, stares, Maya Winters offering helpful warnings about pack politics." Mom's expression hardened slightly. "That girl never could accept not being the center of attention. Don't let her get to you." "Trying not to," I assured her, moving to help with the vegetables she was preparing. "But she's not entirely wrong about the challenges I'd face as Luna. I have no experience with leadership." Mom's hand stilled as she turned to look at me directly. "Is that really what's holding you back from fully accepting the bond? Concerns about your qualifications?" The directness of the question caught me off guard. My parents had been carefully supportive since the bond formed, offering guidance when asked, but generally allowing me space to process at my own pace. Part of it, I admitted, focusing on slicing carrots to avoid her eyes. The pack expects their Luna to be strong, confident, experienced. I've spent the last 6 years actively avoiding most pack interactions. "Experience can be gained," Mom pointed out. "What matters is character, integrity, compassion, qualities you've never lacked, even during your most withdrawn periods." I set down the knife, finally meeting her gaze. "But what if I'm not what the pack needs? What if claiming this bond, taking on that role, ends up hurting Eros's leadership instead of supporting it?" The vulnerability in my question hung between us, the fear I'd been reluctant to fully voice even to myself. Behind all the concerns about public attention and pack politics lay this deeper anxiety, that in claiming the bond, I might become a liability to the man who had shown me nothing but patience and respect. "Oh, sweetheart," Mom said softly, understanding filling her expression. "Is that what you're worried about? That you'll somehow harm his position?" I nodded, swallowing against the tightness in my throat. "You've heard the whispers, seen the reactions. Some think he deserves better than a scarred Omega with a history of suppressing her wolf. Maybe they're right." Mom set aside her knife with deliberate care, turning to face me fully. "Amara, I want you to listen very carefully. Mate bonds don't form by accident. They aren't mistakes or misunderstandings. They're recognitions of fundamental compatibility, of strengths that complement each other in ways that create something greater than either individual alone." "That's what everyone keeps saying," I acknowledged. "But—" "No buts," she interrupted firmly. "Your father and I have watched you these past weeks, since the bond formed. We've seen the changes, the growth, the way you're gradually opening to possibilities you wouldn't have considered months ago. And we've seen how Eros responds to you, not with pity or obligation, but with genuine respect, admiration, even awe." "Awe?" I repeated skeptically. "That seems like a stretch." "Is it?" Mom challenged gently. "Consider what you've overcome, Amara. Silver poisoning that would have broken many wolves permanently, years of isolation that would have left others bitter, threats and pack politics that would intimidate even those born to leadership. Yet here you stand, healing, growing, facing each new challenge with strength that continues to surprise everyone, perhaps even yourself." Her words struck something deep inside me, a perspective I hadn't considered, that my struggles might be viewed not as weaknesses, but as evidence of resilience that could serve the pack uniquely. "The winter prayer," I said suddenly, the decision crystallizing as I spoke. "Eros asked if I would stand with him for the ceremony next week." Mom's expression shifted to cautious hope. And what did you tell him? That I needed time to think, I replied. It would be a very public statement about our bond, about my potential role as future Luna. It would, she agreed. Though not quite as formal as a claiming ceremony, it would certainly signal your intention to eventually accept that position. I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the counter. I think I'm going to do it. Stand with him for the winter prayer. The words felt both terrifying and right, a step towards something I wasn't fully ready for, yet couldn't imagine turning away from. Not a full claiming, not yet, but an acknowledgement that our bond was more than a private biological connection. Mom's eyes brightened with tears. She quickly blinked away. Are you sure? It's a significant step, Amara. There's no shame in needing more time. I'm not sure about anything, I admitted with a small, shaky laugh, except that running away from this bond isn't the answer, no matter how frightening the implications might be. Small steps, right? This feels like the right small step forward. She pulled me into a tight hug, her voice thick with emotion. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. So incredibly proud. The winter prayer? Dr. Cross repeated thoughtfully, her expression neutral as she absorbed my announcement. That's a significant step, Amara. How do you feel about making such a public statement about your bond? We sat in her office the next morning, Eros, Dr. Cross, and me, for our regular session, though news of my decision had altered the expected trajectory of our conversation. Terrified, I admitted honestly, but also ready, I think, or as ready as I'll ever be. Hiding from the pack's attention isn't working anyway. The whispers and stares are happening regardless of what I do. At least this way, we control the narrative instead of letting gossip shape it. Eros, seated beside me on the familiar couch, maintained careful emotional restraint despite the joy I could sense through our bond. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining with gentle pressure. Are you absolutely sure? He asked quietly. There's no pressure, Amara. We can find another approach if you're not completely comfortable. The consideration in his question, putting my needs above tradition, above his wolf's obvious desire for public acknowledgement, only reinforced my decision. I'm sure, I said, meeting his eyes directly. Not about everything yet, not about formal claiming or what being Luna would eventually mean, but about this step, yes, I'm sure. Dr. Cross observed our exchange with clinical interest, making a brief note before looking up. This represents significant evolution in how you're approaching the bond, Amara. Just weeks ago, you were adamant about maintaining privacy and distance while you processed its implications. Things have changed, I acknowledged. The threats, Jace's punishment, the pack's awareness, keeping the bond private isn't really an option anymore. And honestly, maybe that's not entirely bad. The hiding, the avoidance, it's a pattern I've relied on too long. A pattern that served a purpose during your healing, Dr. Cross pointed out gently. One that shouldn't be discarded without careful consideration of what's driving the change. The subtle caution in her tone gave me pause. You think I'm making this decision for the wrong reasons? I think it's important you understand your motivations clearly, she clarified. Are you choosing this path because you genuinely want to move toward claiming your place as Eros's mate, or because external pressures have made your preferred approach of gradual adjustment untenable? It was a fair question, one I had asked myself repeatedly. Both, I think, I admitted after reflection. The external situation has accelerated a process that might have taken longer otherwise, but that doesn't mean the direction is wrong, just the timing. Dr. Cross nodded, accepting this assessment. And you, Eros? How do you feel about Amara's decision? He considered carefully, his response measured despite the joy I could sense through our bond. His thumb traced gentle patterns across my knuckles as he spoke. Grateful, he said finally. Honored that she's willing to take this step despite her valid concerns about public attention, and committed to ensuring the experience supports her continued healing rather than complicating it. Good, Dr. Cross said, making another note. Because this will represent a significant shift in how the pack perceives both of you. Participating in the winter prayer together creates certain expectations, assumptions about the future of your bond. You'll need to be prepared for increased scrutiny, opinions, both supportive and critical. We've already had a taste of that, I pointed out, thinking of Maya's warnings and the constant whispers. Yes, but this will amplify it considerably. Dr. Cross cautioned. The winter prayer is one of our most sacred traditions, witnessed by the entire pack. Your participation together will be a clear statement that you intend to claim the bond formally at some point, even if the timing remains undefined. The seriousness of her warning sent anxiety through me, though not enough to shake my resolve. I understand. We both do. The remainder of our session focused on practical preparations, strategies for managing increased attention, setting boundaries, supporting each other through what would undoubtedly be an emotionally charged experience. By the time we concluded, I felt both more prepared and more nervous. As we left Dr. Cross's office together, Eros seemed to sense my growing anxiety through the bond. "Second thoughts?" he asked gently, his arm coming around my shoulders in a protective gesture that was becoming increasingly natural. "Not about the decision," I assured him quickly. "Just processing the implications. Dr. Cross wasn't exaggerating about how this will change things." He nodded, understanding in his expression. His arm tightened slightly around me, a silent reminder of his support. "The attention won't be easy, but we'll face it together, Amara. You won't be standing alone." The simple promise steadied me, a reminder that unlike my years of isolation, this challenge would be shared. "There's something else," I admitted as we walked. "My scar. It's been years since I've attended a major ceremony, and even then I kept to the back, kept my hair arranged to hide it. Standing beside you for the winter prayer means everyone will see it clearly." Eros stopped walking immediately, turning to face me with such intensity it nearly took my breath away. His hands came up to frame my face with infinite gentleness, thumbs brushing across my cheekbones. "Your scar is part of you, Amara," he said fiercely. "Part of your story, your strength, your survival. Anyone who sees it as a flaw rather than a badge of courage isn't worth concerning yourself with." "It's not that simple," I countered, though his words warmed something deep inside me. "Pack ceremonies are about symbolism, tradition. The Alpha and Luna represent the pack's strength, its future. My scar is a visible reminder of vulnerability, of enemies who manage to harm us." Or, Eros suggested quietly, one thumb tracing the silver line with such reverence it made my heart skip, "It's a visible reminder of resilience, of healing despite silver poison, of the pack's commitment to protecting its own no matter the cost. Perception shapes reality, Amara. Your scar can be a symbol of weakness or strength. It depends entirely on how we frame it." The perspective shift he offered was powerful, not denying the scar's significance, but reframing its meaning. "I've never thought of it that way," I admitted. "Maybe it's time you did," he said simply, pressing a soft kiss to my forehead. "Maybe it's time the whole pack did." The day of the harvest moon ceremony arrived with crisp clarity that seemed fitting for such a significant occasion. Autumn had fully claimed our territory, painting the forests in brilliant gold and crimson, the morning air sharp with winter's promise. I stood before my mirror, studying my reflection with intensity I had avoided for years. The ceremonial dress my mother had helped me select hung elegantly, deep green fabric symbolizing connection to pack lands, silver embroidery representing the moon's protection. Traditional attire for important ceremonies, though I hadn't worn anything similar since before my abduction. The scar remained, of course, a silvery line tracing from temple to jaw, permanent and undeniable. But for the first time in years, I had made no attempt to hide it. My hair was styled in a simple updo that left my face fully visible, the mark of silver and survival on clear display. No more hiding? I had decided the night before, Eros's words about perception and strength echoing in my mind. No more shame for surviving what was done to me. My wolf approved wholeheartedly, her presence steady and supportive as I made final adjustments. Through our bond, I could sense Eros's growing anticipation, not anxiety but focused energy, readiness for the statement we would make together. "You look beautiful," Mom said from my doorway, her eyes bright with unshed tears. So grown up, so present. The description caught me by surprise, though I understood immediately what she meant. For years I had moved through life like a ghost, physically present but emotionally absent, hiding behind carefully constructed walls. Today, there was nowhere to hide. "I feel present," I admitted, turning from the mirror. Terrified, but present. She crossed the room to embrace me, careful not to disturb my dress or hair. "That's all anyone can ask, sweetheart. Being present, being authentic, even with fear, even with doubts. Dad appeared in the doorway, dressed in his formal pack attire. His expression softened as he took in my appearance. "Ready?" he asked simply. "As I'll ever be," I replied, gathering courage with a deep breath. The walk to the ceremonial clearing was quiet, each of us lost in thought as we joined other pack members making their way toward the gathering. I could feel curious gazes following our progress, evaluating my appearance, noting the visibility of my scar, drawing conclusions. The clearing itself had been transformed, lanterns hung from surrounding trees, the ceremonial fire laid but not yet lit in the center, the circle of white stones marking sacred space freshly painted. Pack members gathered in family groups, traditional positions based on hierarchy and function. Alpha Marcus and Luna Elena stood at the northern edge of the circle, their formal attire marking their status. Beside them, slightly to the right, waited Eros, tall and commanding in ceremonial black with silver accents that matched the embroidery on my dress. Not coordinated deliberately, but a line through tradition that suddenly felt meaningful. His eyes found mine immediately as we approached, the bond between us flaring with recognition and something deeper, pride, joy, certainty that contrasted with my lingering nervousness. Through our connection, I felt his wolf's satisfaction at seeing us so publicly together. "Amara," Luna Elena greeted me warmly, embracing me briefly. "You look lovely." "Thank you," I managed, hyper-aware of the eyes watching this interaction. Eros stepped forward then, taking my hand in a gesture both formal and intimate, his fingers intertwined with mine, the touch sending warmth up my arm. "You're beautiful," he said softly, for my ears alone, his thumb tracing gentle circles across my knuckles. "And brave beyond measure." The simple affirmation steadied me, reminding me why I had chosen this path despite the attention it invited. Not for the pack's approval, not for political advantage, but for the connection that had formed between us. My parents moved to the position reserved for respected pack members, leaving me standing with the Alpha family in placement that made our status unmistakably clear. I was not officially Luna, not yet, but my position beside Eros carried significance no one could misinterpret. Alpha Marcus's voice rose above the gathering, strong and clear in the autumn air. "The harvest moon rises tonight, marking the transition from abundance to conservation, from growth to reflection. As our ancestors have done since the first wolves claimed these lands, we gather to honor the cycle, to prepare for winter's challenges, to affirm our commitment to each other's survival in the months ahead." The traditional opening brought hush over the gathering, centuries of ritual lending weight to the familiar words. I stood straight beside Eros, acutely aware of my visibility, but drawing strength from his steady presence. The ceremony progressed through established patterns, expressions of gratitude for the harvest season's bounty, recognition of pack members who had contributed to winter preparations, ritualized sharing of symbolic foods, representing the community's commitment to ensuring no one went hungry during lean months. Throughout, I remained beside Eros, participating when appropriate, observing when tradition dictated. His hand never left mine, fingers occasionally squeezing gently in silent support. The curious gazes gradually softened as the ceremony continued, initial shock of my prominent position giving way to acceptance. Finally, as afternoon light began to fade toward evening, Alpha Marcus gestured for Eros and me to step forward. The winter prayer, the ceremonial highlight we had prepared for, discussed, committed to despite the implications. "As daylight wanes and darkness grows," Alpha Marcus intoned, "we look to those who will guide us through winter months, who will stand as beacons when the night is longest. The winter prayer has been offered by pack leaders since our founding, a covenant between those who lead and those who follow, a promise that no member of our community will face the darkness alone." Eros's hand squeezed mine gently as we moved to stand before the unlit ceremonial fire. Around us, the pack formed a perfect circle, every member present and attentive. "This year," Alpha Marcus continued, "the winter prayer will be offered by Eros Blackwood, future Alpha of the Silver Lake Pack, and Amara Vale, his acknowledged mate." The formal declaration sent a ripple through the gathering, not surprise exactly, as rumors had spread, but official confirmation of what many had speculated about. I kept my gaze steady, my posture upright, despite the fluttering in my stomach. Eros turned to face me then, taking both my hands in his as we had practiced. His touch was warm, steady, infinitely reassuring. The traditional stance for the winter prayer, facing each other rather than the pack, symbolizing that leadership drew strength from partnership before extending outward. "Ready?" he murmured, his green eyes holding mine with warmth and certainty, his thumbs brushing across my knuckles in a gesture of pure tenderness. I nodded, gathering courage from his steady presence and the bond pulsing between us. Together, we began the ancient words, "As darkness grows, we stand as light. As cold descends, we offer warmth. As scarcity threatens, we ensure plenty. As isolation looms, we provide community." Our voices blended perfectly, the words rising clear and strong into the gathering dusk. Around us, the pack remained silent, witnessing the covenant being renewed. By moon and earth, by blood and bond, we pledge protection, guidance, strength. No pack member alone in darkness, no wolf forgotten in the long night. As we spoke the final lines, Kai Morrison stepped forward with the ceremonial torch, handing it to Eros, who held it between us. Our hands joined around its base in the traditional gesture of shared responsibility. His grip was gentle but firm, supporting me through the weight of the moment. From fire comes light, from light comes hope, from hope comes strength to face the winter. This we promise, this we vow, until spring returns to bless our lands. Together we turned and touched the torch to the waiting ceremonial fire. Flames leaped up immediately, rising toward the darkening sky. The pack responded with approving howls, human voices raised in ancient acknowledgement of the covenant's renewal. As the fire blazed before us, Eros's hand found mine again, our fingers intertwining in a gesture both public and deeply personal. Through our bond, I felt his wolf satisfaction, his human pride, his genuine joy at standing beside me for this significant moment. My own wolf pressed forward with unprecedented clarity, her presence stronger than it had been since before the silver blade had marked us. Not fighting for control as she once had, but harmonizing with my human consciousness in a way that felt right, natural, healing. Pack, she seemed to say, the concept laden with belonging with purpose. Our pack. For the first time in years, perhaps ever, I felt the truth of those words without reservation. Our pack. Not just territory shared or proximity tolerated, but genuine belonging, meaningful connection to the community gathered around the ceremonial fire. Alpha Marcus stepped forward once more, completing the ceremony with traditional closing words about vigilance and unity during the winter months ahead. As the formal ritual concluded, the gathering transitioned to celebration. Music starting from the edges of the clearing, food being brought forward, pack members mingling as the tension of the sacred portion eased into relaxed festivity. "You were perfect," Eros said softly as we stepped back from our central position, his eyes bright with pride. His free hand came up to cup my cheek, thumb brushing tenderly across my skin. "Absolutely perfect." "We were," I corrected, leaning into his touch. "Together." His smile widened at my response, the bond between us humming with shared satisfaction. Before he could reply, however, we were approached by a steady stream of pack members offering congratulations, comments on the ceremony, and evaluations of our public debut as a recognized pair. Some were genuinely warm. Dr. Cross with quiet pride in our progress, Elder Miriam with surprising approval despite her earlier reservations, younger pack members with excitement about the future our partnership represented. Others maintained careful political neutrality, their words supportive, while their scents betrayed more complicated reactions. Maya and her mother were noticeably absent from those who approached us, though I spotted them at the celebration's edge, their expressions controlled, but their body language revealing continued disapproval. Jace, of course, remained at the northern outpost, his punishment preventing attendance at a ceremony that would have been difficult for him to witness regardless. "How are you holding up?" Zara asked, finding me during a rare moment when Eros had been pulled into conversation with warriors several feet away. Being the center of attention can't be easy after years of hiding in the shadows, I finished with a small smile. It's overwhelming, but not in an entirely bad way, strangely enough. She studied me with genuine curiosity. "You really have changed, Amara. Even in just these past weeks, you seem more solid somehow." The echo of my mother's earlier assessment struck me. That's what Mom said this morning, that I seemed present for the first time in years. "It suits you," Zara said simply. "This version of you, the one who stands beside the future Alpha without flinching, who lets her scar show without hiding, who speaks ancient prayers in front of the entire pack without her voice shaking. She's impressive." The compliment brought warmth to my cheeks. "I don't feel impressive most of the time," I admitted. "Just learning how to exist differently than I have for the past 6 years." "Well, whatever you're learning, it's working," she assured me. "And not everyone is as resistant as the Winters family wants you to believe. Many in the pack are genuinely happy to see you stepping into this role, to see Eros with someone who challenges traditional assumptions about what makes a strong Luna." The perspective surprised me, offering counterpoint to the opposition narrative I'd been focusing on. "Really?" "Really," Zara confirmed with a smile. "My father, for one, has been increasingly impressed with how you've handled everything, the threats, the politics, tonight's ceremony, and he's not easily impressed." Before I could respond to this unexpected revelation about the beta's opinion, Eros returned to my side, his hand finding mine with natural ease that still surprised me despite weeks of gradually increasing comfort with such contact. His thumb immediately began tracing those gentle circles across my knuckles that had become his unconscious habit. "Sorry about that," he said, nodding respectfully to Zara. "Pack business that apparently couldn't wait until tomorrow." The casual interaction, Zara's easy manner with Eros, his comfortable presence beside me, the three of us conversing as if this arrangement had always existed, struck me suddenly as significant. A small moment of normalcy that would have been unimaginable months ago. As the celebration continued around us, I found myself observing these moments of integration with growing wonder. The way pack members included me in conversations that would have excluded me before, the natural deference shown to both Eros and me as a unit, the gradual acceptance of our bond as reality rather than controversial development. Not universal acceptance, certainly. There were still those who watched with skepticism or disapproval, still whispers that followed us through the gathering, but they no longer seemed to carry the weight they once had. "You're quiet," Eros observed as the celebration began to wind down, the moon rising full and bright above the clearing. His arm came around my shoulders in a protective gesture that was becoming increasingly natural, his fingers tracing gentle patterns along my upper arm. "Processing," I corrected, finding his free hand with an ease that still surprised me. Trying to understand how everything can change so quickly, yet still feel right somehow. His expression softened with understanding, and he pressed a tender kiss to my temple. "The bond makes it easier, I think. Helps align what we feel internally with what we're presenting externally." "Maybe," I acknowledged, leaning into the warmth of his embrace. "Or maybe we're just finding our way to where we were meant to be all along, however unexpected the path has been." The insight surprised me as much as him. Eros's smile deepened, his free hand rising to gently brush a strand of hair from my face. A gesture of such casual intimacy it would have terrified me once, but now felt natural, welcome. "I like that interpretation," he said softly, his voice warm with affection. "The unexpected path to where we were meant to be." As the ceremonial fire burned low and pack members began to disperse toward home, I found myself standing at a crossroads both literal and metaphorical. The winter prayer had been offered, our bond publicly acknowledged before the entire pack. The step forward had been taken, irreversibly altering how we would be perceived and treated within the community. What remained uncertain was where this path would lead next, how quickly or slowly we would move toward formal claiming, toward the roles of Alpha and Luna that awaited in our future. The whispers would continue, the wounds of past isolation would not heal overnight, the political complications would require navigation for months and perhaps years to come. But for the first time since the mate bond had formed, those uncertainties didn't fill me with dread or panic. Instead, I found myself curious about the possibilities, open to the journey, however it might unfold. "Ready to go home?" Eros asked as the clearing emptied around us, only the Alpha family and a few council members remaining to oversee the final closing of the ceremonial space. His voice was gentle, patient, completely focused on my comfort and well-being. "Home," Such a simple word, yet suddenly complex with potential meanings. My parents' house where I had lived all my life, his cabin near the Alpha residence, some future shared space that would be truly ours? Yes, I said simply, choosing to embrace the ambiguity rather than fear it. I'm ready. Whatever home meant now, whatever it might mean in the future, I was indeed ready. To move forward rather than retreat, to face the whispers and wounds with the strength I was gradually reclaiming, to explore the connection that had formed so unexpectedly between us. Eros's arm tightened around me, and he pressed another soft kiss to the top of my head, his lips lingering there as if he couldn't quite bear to let the moment end. Through the bond, I felt his contentment, his pride, his deep and growing love for the woman I was becoming. Small steps had led to this significant moment. Small steps would carry us forward from here, wherever the path might lead. But now, for the first time in years, I wouldn't be walking that path alone. The future stretched before us, uncertain, but no longer terrifying. And with Eros's steady presence beside me, his unwavering support and gentle devotion, I found myself actually looking forward to discovering what it might hold.
Epilogue. 3 months after the Harvest Moon ceremony, I watched Amara from across the training grounds, my heart doing that stupid flutter thing it had been doing since our bond formed. She was sparring with Zara, her movements more fluid and confident than I'd ever seen them. The silver scar caught the morning light as she dodged and weaved, no longer something she hid, but a part of her strength that she wore openly. My wolf purred with satisfaction every time she landed a hit or executed a perfect block. Our mate grows stronger, he said with pride that made my chest tight. She still wasn't fully healed, might never be completely free from the shadows of what happened to her. But the woman facing down Zara with a grin and sweat-dampened hair was so far from the broken girl who'd barely spoken above a whisper just months ago. "You're staring again," Marcus said, appearing beside me with that amused tone he'd been using whenever he caught me watching Amara. "I'm observing her training progress," I replied, not taking my eyes off her as she spun away from Zara's grab. "Uh-huh." My father's chuckle made me finally glance at him. "How's the claiming preparation going?" The claiming ceremony. We'd been planning it for weeks now, set for the spring equinox, Amara's choice of timing. She wanted the symbolism of new beginnings, of life returning after winter. I would have claimed her the day after the winter prayer if she'd let me, but I was learning that good things came to those who waited for Amara Vala to be ready. "She's nervous but excited," I said, unable to keep the smile from my voice. "Dr. Cross says it's normal to have anxiety about such a big step." "And you? How are you feeling about it?" I looked back at Amara just as she managed to pin Zara to the ground, both of them laughing as Zara tapped out. "Like the luckiest bastard alive," I said honestly.